The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night. All day.
I miss the English broad. We got to bring her back.
You want that? This girl?
Eventually.
This one here?
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day,
See, that's
Joe
not
Rogan
English, though. That
podcast
sounds
by
like...
night.
Isn't there an English version of it? Where it's got more of an English... Or how high was I when I heard it?
You might have been on
This bitch just talked to me. She was very proper. The Joe Rogan Experience. Can we do that?
Sure,
We
I
can
can
get a
make
real
it. I can
chick
make
to
it.
do it. Hey, Rory. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Joe. How are
Thanks
you?
for doing this, man. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
And seriously, I really appreciate you having me do it.
Dude, you have a fucking amazing story. You have a Hollywood success story.
Do I?
Yeah.
It's very. It's pretty.
Get this thing right up to your
un-Hollywood.
face so
Oh, yeah?
you can hear
Oh,
it.
yeah, that feels good.
Baby, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Can I get another one on my other
Yeah, they're
cheek?
fucking everywhere. I'm gonna put them all over you.
These
tune
mics
you
are
up.
sweet,
I'm
man.
gonna tune you up.
Turn that off for a second. I got to do something. No, it's not. It's very un-Hollywood in the sense that I was in New York and
Right.
working at the Daily Show, which is next to the horse stables for Central Park.
Yeah, I should say it's a great showbiz story.
I guess so. Yeah, it's
you went from being like a PA to the executive producer of the Daily Show.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, well, it was good. It was not the. I didn't know that was going to happen. I got a job. I wanted to do comedy. I wanted to do stand up, but I went to college, so I felt weird coming out of college and telling my parents I was just going to be a comedian. You know, like, yeah, remember all that money and stuff. Like, I'm just going to tell jokes. Like I come from like. My dad's like an old school Italian guy. Like, he doesn't understand this kind of stuff. He's like, what? What about a job? You know what I mean? Like, get a job. Like, he would have
Right.
been happier if I said I was going to be like a mailman or an electrician. Like, that would have made more sense than a job in TV. So, or comedy in general. So I got the job figuring like that could at least justify the love of comedy.
That
you
sort
know?
of makes sense. Like, look, I'm working in serious business. This
Well,
is the
yeah, at
making
least-
of television shows. We're very successful over here.
Or at least I had to go somewhere. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that was a big part of it. It was like, well, what do you do in the morning when the alarm goes off? Oh, you don't have to get up in the morning because you just work at night in comedy clubs. Like, what? Like,
Yeah. Well,
I
how
don't know.
about the comics that we know that don't do anything during the
During
day
the day,
at all?
yeah.
I mean, they just fuck off completely
I
until
know.
they get on stage.
Which I'm always quite jealous of, actually. You know, but I always had that feeling when people go, "How do you do both?" I'm like, well, you know, one's during the day, you know, so that's one way to do both. Though as I got older, I got more tired at night, and it was harder to go out and do clubs after the Daily Show.
It is, right? It's the hardest thing in the world when you're on a set. Not the hardest thing in the world. I should have never even said that.
Look, compared to anything else, it's really easy.
It's
but,
easy as fuck. But I mean, it's hard to work. What I was going to say, it's the hardest thing in the world to work a full-time job and then try to go out and pursue something because all your juice is gone.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
if anything you're trying to do, that's like athletes that have full-time jobs, like fighters that have full-time jobs. Fuck, that's hard. And that's even harder because they have hours of training they have to put in every day. But just when you're done, at the end of the day, you're done. You want to
Yeah.
get a bite to eat, watch TV, you don't want to go over
Exactly.
your notes
Nope.
and fucking...
Yeah, or for me, the other thing was, too, is I'm still not even at a place where, like, I walk into a club and they're like, oh, just get right up, Mr.
Right.
Albanese, you know? Usually they're like, why don't you clean up this mess at 1:30 a.m., you know? So for me, it was a lot of it was just, I love doing the time, but sometimes you got to hang out at the club. And then, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
my bigger problem was, because then I have fun hanging out with other comics, and afterwards I have a couple of drinks. Next thing I know, the harder problem was getting up the next morning
Yeah, you
and
have to
being
do
on
work
time.
in 3 hours.
Right. So that's where I started to have that, you know, well, I'm doing... The thing that was good about my day job is it got me better at comedy, so I didn't really lose the, like, sort of experience I think I would have gotten on stage. What I didn't get by doing it every night for a while was... you know, like seasoned on stage. It took me a little longer to get like comfortable on stage.
To get back into the groove.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, it was a good experience. PA to EP was fun.
That's amazing. That's one of those stories that you're going to ruin the expectations for every fucking kid who ever becomes a PA. They're all going to think, this is it.
I have to say, at the Daily Show, because it's been on so long and John's such a cool guy and like really gave people opportunities there, I was among the first people to kind of make that journey, but now have not been the only one. The
Wow.
head writer there was a PA.
That's amazing.
A bunch of the EPs and co-EPs and stuff were PAs. Yeah, like
Wow.
people come. It's like, you know,
That's
it's like a farm system almost for good writing and producing. It's pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's become like, for a lot of people, how they get the news.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's weird. Isn't that weird? Like
Yeah.
that's how people get the news.
I know.
Jon Stewart.
Yeah, people tell me that a lot. They say, well, I guess where I get my news. And I get it. Like, I remember being in college, we go, college kids get their news. I feel like I didn't even watch the news when I was in college. Like, I don't know, you're in college, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess it's better than nothing. But I always tell people it's a good place to start to get interested in a topic and then go off and do your own research or whatever you want. Because when people get into political debates, off of like emails and like Daily Show clips, and they're like, that's actually not true. It's like, you know, they don't have like a real understanding of each story necessarily, you know? So.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, isn't it? When you're doing a television show that's also an educational show and also has like a very progressive point of view, what you would think of when you think of Jon Stewart is like very intelligent, very progressive, mocking of both the left and the right when they do ridiculous shit.
Yeah,
you know, but it's got to be funny.
Sure, I mean,
so it's that's a hard job.
Yeah, well, it's really hard for him. For me, it was a lot easier because I got to watch him do it. You know? I mean, that's the thing about Jon that's amazing is he's involved from 9 a.m. through the end of the show, obviously when he hosts it, but in other words, he's so intimately involved and he's so smart and he's so sharp that like when he's in the chair, I never worried about a joke not working because even when they didn't work, he just would like call an audible in his own head and then like remember a joke from like the 9 a.m. meeting that he liked that didn't make the script and throw that in. Or it's pretty amazing to watch him too, sitting in the studio, because he'll change a joke in prompter as the prompter's scrolling, and then later there's a callback to the joke he changed, and he remembers to change the callback or skip the callback. And I'm sitting there with the script, watching the prompter, going, "Oh no!" I'm like, "Oh no! Here comes the callback! Like we're screwed," you know. And then he just jumps it or tags it with the joke. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really like watching.
When a guy's been doing
thing.
it for that long too, I mean, he's fucking smooth. He's so used to that gig. Like for Jimmy Fallon or maybe for Seth Meyers to try a same sort of impromptu ad lib, they might pull it off. But Jon Stewart's been doing it forever.
Yeah,
forever and ever.
Oh, no doubt. And he also, he also just knows a lot.
Well, he was a good comic too before he ever started doing that.
Yeah, he's a great comic. But he also just knows. He understands comedy in a way that I'm sure those, I know both Seth and Jimmy, super funny guys. I just never worked with them in that capacity. So I know Jon understands it like music. You know what I'm saying? Where he'll go, oh no, that won't work. This will work.
Right.
You know, and people go, well, how do you know something's going to work before you try it? And it's like, you just kind of know. I don't know. You just kind of know.
Well, he also has a very specific voice. He knows his voice, his style of delivery.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a fascinating show because it's very political, but yet very funny. He doesn't sacrifice like going for funny.
Yeah.
Like to try to look like less silly or try to look dignified. He's not trying to monologue it.
Yeah.
He's just making this stuff as funny as he can. And sometimes he gets extremely animated and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's versatile in that sense. Like he can really do any kind of comedy. Yeah. And but yeah, as far as it, I think it's because it really is, and this always bothers people so much. They always want to go, oh, what? They think the Daily Show is like an agenda. It's like we're all sitting around in a circle, be like, how do we screw the right? You know? It's like, no, it doesn't. It's people don't believe that, and they go, oh, you're just hiding behind the fact that it's a comedy show. And go, no, doing comedy is really hard. There's nothing to hide. Like we still have to take the stories. We still try to get everything right. We have people who fact check. There's a guy there named Adam Chodikoff who's like just a guru of information, and will come in to the rewrite room between rehearsal and the show after we change a joke, and I go, you can't say this way because it's statistically inaccurate. To like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, man, no one's gonna care. Like,
you can't say that.
But I'm saying it's not even. So we really fact check stuff that goes out. But it really a big part of the day is figuring out how to tell the story, the narrative, and then adding the jokes is why you have writers and guys like Jon. Then you can pile on the funny, but. Funny is the most important thing there. It really is. That's what's so fun. That's why I stayed so long, because it's not like I don't know. There's no like movement happening there. It's just a comedy show.
Well, that's why everybody who gets so attached to it is so crazy. It's like they want it almost to be more ideologically driven than it is. Yeah. It's like people would want it if he said something ridiculous in support of Obama. They would like it.
Sure.
But if Obama fucks up, he goes after him too.
All the time. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The show really became what it is, or what people think of it as now, during the Bush administration. So I think people really associated it being this like hardcore left-wing show, and it definitely slants left. I mean, it's hard sometimes for it not to in comedy, because everything that's, when you're pointing out some things that are just straight up absurd, it's hard sometimes not to seem left, because you're throwing away like, you know. So I think that's why people go, oh, why don't people do a right-wing Daily Show? It's like, it's not really a left or a right thing. It's just a lot of times comedy is dismissive of people taking themselves too seriously, and conservatives have a tendency to take things very seriously. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what they are. They're conservative. They're taking it more seriously.
And a comic by nature is the guy sitting in the back of the classroom being like, look at this dick. You know, it's just like, you don't really care about what the person's saying. You're just finding places to get a laugh. And I think, so for us, like when the left does absurd things, which is also quite frequent, like Occupy Wall Street was a perfect example of my favorite times at the Daily Show, where we're like ripping the left a new asshole, and the audience, because I'm in the studio, or used to be, and the audience is like, what? What are you guys doing, man? Just John, this is our movement, man. And they're like, you know, and they're like, they zip up their zippies over their Jon Stewart for President t-shirts, you know, they're like, oh shit. And for me, it was like, we crushed those dudes. And then I'd go to the desk between commercials and we'd be like, yeah, you know, it's like, you know, it's a stand-ups mentality. Like, 'cause you feel the crowd. Like, I just came back from Madison, Wisconsin this weekend, and it's an amazing city. Like, the club is awesome. The shows were so fun, but there were groans from the crowd on certain things, I would say, because it was this college town. And colleges now are really, like, I know that's like a taboo right-wing thing to say, but there's a left-wing political correctness in college now that is extreme. And I remember like 10 years ago doing a college gig is very different than now. You make a joke about people, like, whoa. And that was happening in Madison, and there's, you know, as a comic, right? Like, you feel that from the crowd, and you go, wait, what just happened? And then you know, you want to like poke it a little bit. So on the Daily Show, John's a comic. When we hit a note on something, we were going after Hillary in 2008. Same thing. What are you guys doing? I don't know. We're doing what we do. We're making fun of people who are in charge. Like, you know, sorry you don't. It's selective outrage, you know?
Well, it's one of the more interesting things that's happened during the transition between the Bush administration and the Obama administration is that people are starting to deny this whole party thing. They're starting to go, look, we're getting fucked here. This is not a left or a right. So these ideas that everybody on the right subscribes to, like immediately. You tell someone that you're a Republican and they immediately think you've got some freaky ideas about gay marriage, you're pro-war, you're anti-abortion. They just start throwing things like you automatically get tossed into a very extreme category. Or if you say, I only vote Democrat, you automatically get bunched in with these bleeding hearts, super ridiculous professional victims, just the most ridiculous social policies. You get two extremes on two sides, and there's no room for nuance. And the idea that you're either one or the other, it's kind of being exposed as being ridiculous now.
It's so funny that you say that, because that's literally like the thing that's I'm obsessed with since I left the show, and that's why I've been talking about my stand-up act. It's like we're giving two choices. And it's you pick a box, and then that's what you feel about every issue in that column. And you're like, well, wait a minute. What if I'm pro-choice, but I'm okay with guns?
Right.
What do I do? You can't. You're not allowed.
You're not allowed.
You can either be left or you can be right. And like you said, nuance. That's just called thinking. Like, in other words, whatever happened to like something comes up, and smart people sit around and talk about it and think about it instead of going knee jerk. If this happens, the right's going to get this. It's so odd, and I don't understand how. And I agree with you. I don't think most people feel that way, but I think the people who have a voice on, you know, TV or media, I should say, are picking sides. So it's like you're just sort of getting glumped into one of those two.
Yeah, there's a real issue with that, for sure. There's a real issue with the people that are running these shows also taking safe choices. That's a real issue. Like, if you're easy to define. But how the fuck did guns and gay marriage get put in the same group? How come they're even remotely connected? Like, you can be pro-gay marriage and you have to not want a gun? You can't own a gun.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see the connection.
They're bizarre connections. Those are connections. Conservative and progressive connections sometimes don't make any sense at all.
Well, I also think too, especially now, you know, the argument against guns, and I'm not saying I don't own a gun, but I'm not. I understand why people do. You know, I don't own a gun because I live in New York City. And like, it's just not a good place to open carry, you know. It's not, you don't want to cruise around Manhattan with a 357 hanging off your hip.
You know, Anthony Cumia actually does carry a gun with him everywhere
in New York as well. Because in New York, you're really not allowed to carry a weapon.
But he has a concealed carry permit.
National.
Yeah,
right?
No, he has a New York one.
Wow.
Yeah, it cost him a lot of money and a lot of time.
Yeah.
But that's
you
why
got to bribe like some Staten Island people to get one of those.
I don't know who he had to bribe. I don't know what he had to do.
You got to go to an out-of-borough bribes house to get one of those.
You got to be in the secret poker game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
how the hell he got it.
That's some old school like New York shit. You know?
Well, he's also a public figure. I'm sure he's had death threats. Worries about his safety. But he you know the whole story with him getting kicked off the air.
No,
he was taking photographs like 4 o'clock in the morning in New York. Some woman beat him up. Some chick he took a picture of, and he had a gun on him the entire time, and then he went on this tirade about the crime problem in Black America, you know, the violence problem in Black America. And they fired him from Opie and Anthony. Just giant outrage on both sides. Yeah. But the point being, this guy had a gun on him. He has a gun on him all the time. Like
he did nothing with it.
Yeah, he did nothing with it. He said he wasn't in danger. She was hitting him, but it sucked. But
in Florida, that person gets shot every time.
Probably,
you know what I mean? Yeah. In Florida, just this conversation alone could get you shot.
Yeah, they take shit.
Did you guys talk about somebody getting in a fight? I'm shooting somebody. I am shooting somebody, and they're pretty sure there's a loophole. But I
definitely don't think everybody should have a gun. I definitely think it should be hard to get a gun. I think you should have to. You should have to. I mean, we should all agree on what the requirements are. But mental health requirements. Well, they should give you a mental health evaluation.
To me, the gun issue has always just been what's so. In order to go scuba diving, you got to take a class and a test. You know, and that's just so you don't like come up too fast and get the bends or whatever. It's like in order to get a car, which everyone says is a weapon. You know, if you drive drunk or whatever, it's a weapon. You go to jail for homicide if you kill somebody in a car drunk or whatever. You got to take a test, get a license. To me, it's just like guns are fine, but why not just you pass the handgun class, get a handgun, you register. To me, it's just about like knowing who's getting the guns, because then at some point, someone's like, I want to take the bazooka class, and you're like, we should watch that guy. You know what I mean? The guy who wants to take the bazooka class, it seems like. You know, maybe he gets on a list, you know? I don't know. Or he doesn't. You know, I don't want to piss people. I don't want a guy with a bazooka finding me, but...
They're going to get mad at you right now even for suggesting that.
No, but I'm just saying a class to me seems like a reasonable...
It seems very reasonable.
Yeah, but again, I get it. It's like, you know, the country... But then I think about this a lot. The Second Amendment, the argument is... it's different now. The Constitution's an ancient document. People used to have muskets. Now they have AR-15s. But the same is true with the First Amendment. Because people used to just stand in like a town square and yell stuff they wanted to get off their chest. But now we've got Twitter, which is like the AR-15 of free speech, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like now you've got crazy people putting shit out there, you know, so it's the same thing. Well, maybe we got to scale that thing back a bit too. You know?
How about what you can do in the name of parody? Like, there's all these websites that just write fake stories.
I know.
And these fake stories aren't even funny. They're just totally fake.
Right.
And people retweet them and tweet them, and you go to the website, it says somewhere on the website, this is a parody site. And you're like, oh, you
it's like
fucks.
a right-wing onion, you know?
Yeah.
It's like not
some
funny.
Some of them are unbelievably bad.
And those are the ones like my mom sends me. She's like, did you see this? Did you see this? This is what all Muslim people are like. I'm like, that's not... It's actually not... That's a photoshopped thing, you know? Like, that's... Because in that little... There's a mom forwarding community.
I think the gun argument is that if you make it so that people have to take a mental health evaluation, the real extreme guys would say, well, then someone is going to decide who gets to have this gun, and that'll be political and ideologically driven, and the left will make sure that no one is mentally capable of carrying a gun.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I don't think it's a mental health thing. I just think it's like a road test. That's all I'm saying. Like,
well, it should be both, right? I mean, it's a different thing than a car because it's not transportation. Its only purpose is to shoot things.
But I guess its only purpose is shoot. But it's a hobby. For some people, it's a hobby. For some people, they like to go to a shooting range. They like to shoot. They're entitled to like to do that.
Just like a bow and arrow, you don't even need a license for.
Right.
Just go to a store.
I know. Which is also, I guess.
And even a crossbow.
Yeah, crossbow is just like...
Those things are crazy.
Yeah. Are you allowed to wear a crossbow, like, just around your...
It's a good question.
That's a good question.
Like,
That's a really good
That'd be
question.
cool to do.
I don't
it
think
would be
you
cool
can,
as shit to do.
I think there's a limit on what size blade you can have for a knife, but I wonder if like a weapon like a crossbow...
But I mean, walking around a city with a quiver and a bow and arrow.
strapped
Yeah.
around your
It's pretty
shoulder.
badass.
Yeah.
Dude. You should look into that.
I'm sure you can use arrowheads.
Well, you
right?
can have them.
No, I
You
mean an
certainly
arrowhead
can have
tied
them.
to a stick.
Arrowhead tied to a stick.
I mean, you can have a bow. Like if you instead of using arrows like with real like sharp like ends, you could use an
I think-
arrowhead. 'Cause that's just a rock.
Well,
Arrowhead. What do you mean?
Those arrowheads, you find like
Oh,
in
the
Ohio.
ancient Indian
yeah,
ones?
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
You're saying like
yeah.
take a piece
Well,
of
those
flint
are a
and
weapon.
make.
That is a weapon, though.
Yeah, that's a weapon.
That's a weapon still.
Yeah. So that was a solid weapon for centuries. Actually,
Yeah, I mean,
the
you
rock.
can't deny that an arrowhead is designed specifically to kill things.
So if you get pulled over with a bunch of arrowheads, you're in trouble.
Well, you could if you were attached to an actual device, like a stick. Like if you had a spear in your car, like a real spear that was tied down with like animal sinew and a giant flint fucking blade.
hanging across the back of your.
And they were like, yeah, like those caveman ones you
Yeah.
always see in the.
Ah.
What is it called? Obsidian? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
that
the-
weird rock.
it's like
that's
a black rock. Yeah,
cool,
yeah,
shiny
yeah.
rock
Yep.
that slices up nice when you chip away at it. Yeah, that's probably the line. But
I
you
don't
could
know.
say like, hey, I'm just into archaeology and.
Yeah.
Or I'm 12 and I found it outside.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny you could still find those in some places?
Oh, I found one when I was a kid in Ohio.
Did you really?
Yeah, I guess it was very common because because there was this like place, Old Man's Cave. Old Man's Cave.
Really?
And I
There's
guess you
really
just-
a place called
Old Man's Cave. And you
Are
just-
you sure
Scooby-Doo
that's not a
episode.
Scooby-Doo episode? Oh, Jeepers Creepers! We're at Old Man's Cave.
You pull his mask off and it's really the fucking
He's
town
not an
mayor.
old man after all. It's
I
a
re-
young lady.
I remember the one the one I found was broken. So, but you could tell it was like the tip or the like half of one.
Oh wow, that's so cool! I would love to find something like that somebody used for sure hundreds and hundreds
Yeah.
of years ago, and you're just holding on to it, trying to think about what time has passed. with
Very
that.
cool.
Check out this is Old Man's Cave. Right.
It really is a place.
Yeah, and it's just like
No,
this-
dude, that's Young Lady's Gulch. I know my way around Ohio.
that's a dope, fucking cool
That's
little
amazing.
spot.
You
man.
found an arrowhead there?
Yeah.
There's a waterfall like
Shit.
that.
Oh, there's tons of Old Man's Cave is badass.
That is
Sure
so
is.
cool. That's so cool.
Wow.
And then there's like insides where you go inside and there's like stalagmites and
Stalagmites. How do you say it?
Whatever.
Stalactites.
Stalagmite and
Stalagmite.
stalactite.
Have you ever seen that fucking spot that they found in Mexico that looks like? Remember, Superman's dad? He had that crazy island.
You mean Marlon Brando?
Yeah,
Did
they
he
went to
also
that
have a crazy
place? He had a crazy island. Yeah,
Dr.
Marlon
Moreau?
Brando was his dad. He
Yeah,
was his dad. in
Brando
Superman,
was
right?
his dad, yeah.
Remember, he had that crazy place where they would go, and there was all the ice crystals and
Yeah.
shit. It looked really nutty. Fortress of
Fortress of
Solitude. Is that
Solitude,
it?
yeah.
There's a place in Mexico that looks like a real live Fortress of Solitude. Pull it up. Pull up Fortress of Solitude in Mexico. Crystal caves in Mexico, where they're crystals. And they're fucking huge,
And just
man.
jutting out of
like
the ground.
giant ones all over the place. Like,
That's
it doesn't
so
even
cool.
look real, and it's apparently insanely hot down there. Like you can't even stay down there for very long while you're examining it because it's like 140, 150
Because you're like
degrees.
under the ground in
wow.
Mexico, right?
You're cooking in Mexico, and these things. Look at this. This is
Holy
real.
shit.
Those are people, man. That's a fucking dude. Those are scientists
crazy.
walking on top of these giant beams of crystal.
That's crazy.
It's fucking insane. Those crystals are 40, 50 feet long. Some of them even more. Look at that one. That's like 100 feet long.
That is crazy.
And they're giant around, and you can walk on them. They're like bridges.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dope pictures, dude. If you find some other ones, some of them they just don't even look real. Like you see these people standing. Like look at that one with the two.
Wow, look at
Oh my
that.
god,
That's
that's
insane.
How is
insane.
it really blue like that?
That's just when they light it up. Did you know that they found that some insane amount of water that was hidden in the Earth's surface, and it's in stuff like that. Yeah. It's in a mineral. They found that there's way more water in the Earth than they recently
Than they realized. I'm sure we'll find a way to suck it out and use it for something.
Well, I think it's in like some sort of a mineral form. It's many times more than ocean, and
Yeah.
all the oceans.
Yeah, we talked about it a
Yeah,
couple episodes ago.
Trying to just pull it up. It's huge underground reservoir holds 3 times as much water as in the oceans.
Yeah.
How fucking crazy is that?
It's
but
nuts.
it's that kind of shit. It's like it's not actually water. I don't think the way
It's
I've
like
I've read
crystallized
it,
minerals or whatever.
Yeah, it's something that it's called ringwoodite, and it's only been found in meteorites.
That's crazy.
that's what this fucking shit is. I think that's it. And they believe that, like a lot of the water, they believe that hit Earth came from, probably scientists right now listen to me going, what? You don't know what the fuck you're saying, stupid. I don't.
But what was it? A lot of the what? Meteors?
A lot of the water on this Earth came from comets. That's what they think. They think that that a lot of the water just came from space. Just like when you see a comet and those big trails behind the comet, apparently that's water.
Shit.
That's
water
water vapor.
I thought that was energy drink. That's what I thought. That's where I thought Monster came from.
Yeah, so I don't know how we got on this. How did we get on this? Water.
If arrowheads were illegal.
Arrowheads. Oh, we were talking about
bow and
guns.
arrows.
We were talking about guns.
Yeah, but we went somewhere. We
went to Old Man's Cave.
Old Man's Cave.
In Ohio.
Oh,
Where he
that's
found
where we
an
got the Crystal
arrowhead.
Caves in Mexico.
Yeah.
The Crystal Caves in Mexico. Yeah, someone like J-Lo got a bathtub carved out of crystal from Mexico. Some high quality baller, and it was like $1 million bathtub. Wow. And it was just carved out of Mexican
bathtub.
crystal.
That's awesome, man. That's totally necessary.
I just don't know why they didn't
I don't
use
think
any
that's
diamonds.
excessive at all.
There's
you know?
no diamonds in it. Why not have
There's
diamonds
not.
in it?
I think having a bathtub is a waste of money, let alone a crystal bathtub.
It's because you're not a chick.
That's right.
Chicks
That's because
love
I don't
bathing.
bathe. Yeah.
They love to have their leg up in the air.
I
while
just
they-
like the
they
thought
shave.
of getting into a pool of standing water to clean myself. There's nothing about that that seems appealing.
Well, at the end of the day, you're really just sitting in butt soup.
Yeah, butt soup.
Yeah,
That's all it
you
is. And I
didn't
know,
wash it
I know
off.
my butt. I want to be in a shower.
Unless you take a shower first and then take
Yeah,
a
I
bath,
guess.
you're disgusting.
Yeah.
Like you're watering down the amount of filth on your body. That's all you're
Exactly.
doing.
You're spreading it out
Yeah,
more
you're just-
evenly.
You're just bringing butt juice all over your breasts and
juice.
feet.
You
and-
better quickly trademark butt juice. I
if
don't
you
know if
think
that's
about
out there.
the amount, I mean, if you are not a good wiper, the amount of shit material that's still in your ass.
Mm-hmm.
If you were about to take a nice clean bathtub and someone said, "Okay, I'm just going to give a 1/16 of a teaspoon of shit and stir it in the water," you'd be like, "Get the fuck out of here! I'm not getting in that water."
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what you're doing.
And
when
I
you
think
when you take
1/16 of a
bath.
teaspoon is low based
It's
on some of the
probably
people I
low.
know. Some of the
Especially
people.
if you're hairy. From some Italian guy with a big fucking hairy
Yeah,
ass.
big hairy
You're
ass.
getting in there.
That's 2% shit in that water.
Dirty, disgusting. Yeah, baths are fucking weird, man. It's like it's a relaxation thing as much as it is a bathing thing. Like
Yeah,
we
I
know how
guess.
to do shower. They invented them when they used to have to like heat up water,
Yeah.
and they just have a fire under them. That's one of the reasons why they were iron.
Well, it also used to be like people took baths in the same water because
Yes.
you don't want to lug that water up from the lake 100
Yep.
times or the river. You know what I mean? And then it would be like, all right, mom goes first. You know what I
Right.
mean? By the end,
Yep. Ugh.
someone just at that point, you're like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good on the bath for.
I bet they never got sick. 'Cause
Oh,
they were
no.
just
People
they were
would-
just
oh,
trading
yeah.
each other's bacteria
all the
back and
time.
forth.
and then pooping in the well. You know, then poop in the well.
Actually, saying they never got sick is ridiculous because not only did they get sick, but they died, like millions of them.
All the
and
time.
One flu would hit.
People
Boom.
died from like diarrhea. All
Yeah,
the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, dysentery.
Yeah.
That scares the shit out of me about this Ebola thing. That they can't contain it. They keep spreading.
But they can't contain it. If you've been reading those stories, like they can't contain it in Africa. But some of what's happening in those villages is people are not telling that. First of all, there's no like CDC there, like kind of controlling the situation. Like it's a mess internally within the country. But also the people aren't. A lot of people are scared. Like it's just a different culture, so people are scared. There was one doctor who's from the region who studied here at like Harvard and is back there now. And he wrote this thing about it, just saying, or they did an article on him, just saying how his biggest struggle is convincing people in these villages that they need to take these warnings seriously and things like that. There's all of these like other components of it besides the fact that the disease is just spreading rapidly, but the people aren't reacting properly. You know what I mean?
Oh, that makes sense.
So there's like more to, and I'm not saying it's not a terrible thing. I just mean there's more to it.
Right.
They're structurally disorganized. It seems like there's people are like not telling them that their so and so died 2 days before. They're like, and there's no 911. Like ambulances don't come. They're not clearing the bodies out in time. Like it's not a first world situation. You know.
that totally
Which
makes
is
sense.
a serious problem on a whole other level.
Yeah.
But it's one of the reasons it's difficult to control.
Isn't that like a plot in a movie? Like, isn't that how the super disease spreads?
Yeah, sure.
It spreads through like a series of things that as you're watching the movie, you're going, no,
don't get in the plane. Don't get in the plane.
He's not going to tell him that the lady's dead. He's not going to tell him.
The
She died of Ebola.
The mosquitoes in your pants. It's in your pants. You know? As he zips up. Like,
slap. Yeah, man, Africa's scary. It scares the shit out of me. It's a weird. The more I read about different parts of Africa, I mean, there's obviously Johannesburg and there's some cities, and I've met a lot of people from South Africa that are cool as fuck. But the whole of Africa is so fucking huge.
Yeah.
If you look at when you look at a map, we look at Africa as if Africa is the same size as America. Because on maps, they're kind of distorted. Have you ever seen that image when they put America inside of Africa? And you get to see how big Africa really is?
Yeah.
It's fucking monstrous.
Yeah.
And it's where everything started.
Yep.
And you can't.
Don't say that. What do you mean on the air? What do you mean
I
everything?
mean, without Jesus.
Well, I mean,
the
no,
non-Jesus stuff.
Hold on. Adam was a white dude, and then he had his rib picked down.
I had a guy in a couple of weeks that believes in Adam and Eve.
Really? But believes in it or likes the tale?
Thinks that's how people came here.
Really? Incest?
Yep.
Because that's what always confused me. Was like they have a kid and then they have another kid and then
they
those two
fuck
have
their
a
kids
kid.
or their kids fuck each other.
Right?
Someone's getting fucked.
Yeah.
You have to make people.
You got to make like
nobody wants to hear that. If you say that
Frank and Susan down the street, at least, give them some, spread out the DNA a little bit, Come on, I know you work in mysterious ways, but come on.
Well, Noah had to do it again too.
I know.
It started all over again with Noah. Same deal.
Yeah, and he also had all those animals to fuck too. Noah had it made.
Well, he probably couldn't fuck the animals because he had to fuck his kids to make sure he made more kids.
Right.
You got to make people. You got to save those loads. He was 500 years old at the
really
time.
felt that should have been the Russell Crowe movie after the flood, and just him fucking his kids. You know what I mean? Just 2 hours of Russell Crowe fucking his daughter.
While the fucking
now that's a movie.
Rock monsters guard over them.
Yeah, I like the Hollywood executive with his guy like, make me one of them kid fucking movies. Tie it to the Bible.
Listen, if they have a better explanation, let them write the script.
Let them write the script. Hire a couple of Jews, make me a kid fucking movie. Tie it to the Old Testament, the New Testament, I don't give a shit.
Could you imagine if you pitched a movie where Adam and Eve had to have sex with their children because they realized it was the only way for children to survive? So Adam and Eve could be played by like Brad Pitt.
Yeah, gotta be.
And like someone hot.
I think it would be
the girl from Kick-Ass.
Which one's that? She's too young.
How about
not anymore?
How about
she's like 20?
Brad Pitt.
Perfect.
Brad Pitt, Kathy Bates, fucking blow people's minds.
No, I'm scared of Kathy Bates after Misery. I wouldn't be able to jerk off to that movie.
Well, that's a problem. I love those are your movie reviews. Joe Rogan says he couldn't whack it to it.
I tried,
but Nick would stay hard, says Joe Rogan of the Whack It Times.
Speaking of whacking it to strange movies, man, I saw Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson this weekend. Have you seen it?
No, I didn't know anything about it. What is it?
It's an art movie that they made with her in Scotland where they used hidden cameras and she tried to pick up men.
Oh, it's like as Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, she had an English accent. I don't know if she has an English accent in real life.
So it's real, in other words.
A lot of it is real interactions with random people, and they wound up using them in their interactions with her in the movie. The movie's about her. She's an alien. She comes here and tries to emulate human beings. And when she emulates human beings, she takes men, and I don't want to give away the plot, but she lures them in with her beautiful good looks and charm, and she's naked in half the movie.
Really?
It's fucking fantastic.
Hold on, let me write this
just because of that. She's naked in half the movie. And you know what I love about her, man? She's naked and she's not thin.
No, she's curvy.
She's a woman.
She's perfect. Yeah,
she's a sexy woman.
Yeah.
Like, I fucking hate that women think that they have to look like they're starving to death for us to think that they're attractive.
Drives me nuts.
It's so silly.
And also, did you see Don John? Is that what it's called? With
no, I didn't
Tony
see that.
Danza.
I didn't see that.
She as like a Long Island.
I heard it was really funny.
Yeah, it's funny, but as like a Long Island, like East Coast kind of dude, that movie to me like hit so many funny points. Like just him driving around yelling at people, "Get the fuck off the road!" I'm like, yeah, that's how you drive. Like that's a normal way to drive. And then Scarlett Johansson though, she plays like this
Italian girl,
chewing gum, and she's like, I
hot.
fucking love your parents, you know, like it's awesome. Goes over for Sunday dinner, like, oh, it's so funny. It's so funny. Yeah,
I'll see it.
But she's
I have to see
but
it.
that character, my friends always make fun of me because like those Long Island girls, like I have such a weakness for that kind of a
Do
girl.
you?
Oh yeah, because it's like kryptonite for me. Like even though like
why?
yeah, like I don't know. It's just like that's what I grew up around. So sometimes I'll see a girl like that, I'm just like, yeah, she's
Really?
leathery and hot, you know.
Like when you
So
were a
she
kid?
played that. I don't know. It's just like
Did you like have a girl when you were a kid that like a Joan Jett type thing?
No, well, Joan Jett lived in my town for a while, so
Really?
that could be part of it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. It's my buddies from college always used to make fun of me, like, oh, dude. They used to say Kyorky, like that girl's Kyorky, you know, like from New York. I'm like, yeah,
Right.
she is, and be like, oh, Rory. I'm like, yeah, say it again. Yeah.
I'm so the opposite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I believe me, I've not really been with too many girls like that, but there's like I have an impulsive reaction, like that girl's attractive, like because that's what
so
you grow
funny.
up around. Yeah.
I hear that accent and I think arguments.
Yeah.
Arguments are coming.
Sure, but isn't that half the fun?
Not me, man. Not
Yeah,
for
no,
me.
not it.
I'm
Yeah,
not
no.
good at those. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
enjoy those, especially interrelational arguments.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind arguing with drunk idiots.
No,
but
sure,
I don't want to argue with a chick I'm dating.
Fighting,
It's just
fighting in a relationship's the worst thing in the world. Especially as you get older, you get so tired. You're like, yeah, fine.
yeah.
I don't, whatever.
Well, also you start realizing, hey, how come I never argue like this with my friends?
Yep.
You know, like what's going on there?
Yep.
Like I had an ex-girlfriend a long time ago, back in the Dizzy, who just loved to fucking fight. And one day I was hanging out with one of my friends. We were laughing and joking around, and I realized, I go, why is it that when you're around like certain people, it just becomes tense and fighting? It's not their fault. It's not your fault. It's like you just need to not be hanging around with those people.
Yeah.
Like that kind of person. Like she'll find a guy that she could steamroll and she'll have a grand old time and maybe he'll enjoy that type of relationship too. But it's just not right for you.
Well, that's what it is too. I think it's also a lot of it is just personality. Like I have a very like, I want to be in control of my own shit kind of personality.
Yeah.
And I've been dated people. I was married at one point, yeah, which is a whole other thing.
Kapow!
But yeah, I think, but I don't even think it's bad when you realize that that's an incompatibility. I think there's a reality to that, which is like we're going to be conflicting all the way through this, and like, at some point you just go, I'm crazy about this person, but like there seems to be a disconnect in
Right.
my ability to agree and your ability to agree with each other on things because we both want to go our own way.
And there's not absolutes in these types of relationships. Sometimes people can just figure it out and work it out.
Yeah.
Just communicate with each other and make things better.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can't. You know, it's like when you talk about these things, whenever it sounds like you're giving advice, like relationship advice, people will always get pissed off one way or another. They're always like, you're judging or you're this or you're that. But the reality is, who the fuck knows what you're? It's like the idea of a man and a woman finding the exact right compatibility for each other is so fucking hard to do. So when people when they think they have to break up and they know they have to break up, like, God damn it, we fight all the time, we got to fucking break up. It's hard to just start all over again.
Yeah, it's really
That's
hard.
what people are scared of.
Yeah.
People are scared of getting out of the bad one and then trying to find a good one because it's fucking hard to find cool people.
There's also a comfort in a relationship that even then when you're fighting,
Yeah.
there's a comfort to it. And like
Yeah.
you got to separate the like, I don't know, man, we both like American Idol, you know? Like, you got to try to separate some of that and go like the other stuff that's happening is not healthy.
I've had
you know?
my best relationships with chicks I have zero in common with. Just as long as we're nice to each other.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to like the kind of music you like. I can walk in and go, what the fuck are you listening to? But I don't get upset.
Well, that's the whole thing. As long as they don't care.
yeah.
Because then sometimes people are like, oh, you disrespect my shows. You're like, they're...
Well, there's some guys that I want my girl to start going to the gym with me. She's going to start powerlifting. Like, what? Why do you...
That's a weird request.
Why are you doing that? I want her to understand the lifestyle.
That's amazing.
She's going to be my girl.
Sweetheart, I think you're attractive, but you don't really have traps.
You got to work on your neck muscles. You got a skinny
You
neck.
got a little bit of too much neck.
I don't think it's so
I
hot.
like some less neck on a girl.
I'll put a ringworm on that finger.
How did we get on the subject of Scarlett Johansson's movie?
I don't know.
You were on the airplane watching it.
We were talking about other movies before that, right?
I don't know. Do we always have to
Damn it.
figure out how we got on this subject?
No, I do. Unfortunately,
It's a
'Cause
detective-
I had
it's a
a
detective
note-
series.
This is typical me. I got a notepad in front of me, these legal notepads,
Yeah.
and when I have something I don't want to forget, I'll write it down, and I'm like, Psh, I'm not going to forget that.
And
So of course I didn't write it
That's
down.
like the story of my stand-up writing. I'm like, that's a good bit. I'll write it down tomorrow. You know, now I'm gonna keep playing this video game.
You ever hear Mitch Hedberg's joke about that? I'm paraphrasing, but he goes, sometimes when I'm lying in bed, I have the idea for a joke. Either I have a pen or a pad, or I have to convince myself that it wasn't that funny.
That's exactly right. He's so good. Jesus Christ.
He would be awesome at shit that just doesn't look funny on paper, and you're crying laughing.
Yeah, he's one of those comics I saw. I had the chance to see live once, and boy, I remember watching him going, "Well, I don't know why I'm doing this." Like he was one of those where just go,
Yeah.
"What's the point?" Like that guy's out there.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's so unique. There's no Mitch Hedbergs. You know, it's like Mitch Hedberg, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one. He's like hey, there's guys that are like Mitch Hedberg now,
Mm-hmm.
but when I put him in a category, he's like this unique little branch.
Yep.
You know,
and his the whole thing with him, his delivery, his
All of
style,
it. All of
his
it.
performance. Just you never really saw his face. Just
Yeah.
kind of hair in front of his eyes. You know.
so sad that guy had
Yeah.
such a fucking raging drug problem.
I know.
That we lost him at such a young age.
I know. Same with Geraldo, man. That crushed me. That guy was
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Geraldo, it's more of like a one-time accident.
Yeah,
Whereas,
no, I know. But he was struggling and he was going through
Yeah.
shit. But yeah, it was definitely was not like Mitch Hedberg, the rumor was. Like this guy's
Well,
doing
he
a
had
lot of
gangrene.
drugs.
He was almost going to lose his leg. Like when we were Doug and I were working together, and he got this phone call, and he hung up the phone. His face was like ashen, and he's like, Hedberg might lose his leg.
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, no fucking way. And they're like, yeah, he's hospitalized. He apparently had been shooting into the same vein over and over and over again, and it was awful and infected. And you know, when Stanhope was saying it, I was like, that is like, it's almost more fucked than hearing about a guy dying. It's hearing about a guy
Yeah.
who gets his leg amputated because he was doing heroin too much into it.
especially now, like gangrene. It's
Fuck.
like, that's a crazy.
Yeah, that's some like Roman times disease.
Yeah.
That was right before he died too, right?
Yeah, it was about a year before he
Yeah.
died, I think. So when Doug was pretty close to him, I only met him once, man. I only met him once at the store. I went on after him one night at the store. He was really cool. He was very friendly. But I've always been a fan. Always, and since then, I actually was listening to one of his albums just like 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah,
It's great.
He's great.
It's even stuff that didn't work. When it didn't work, he just had this way of going, that one needs work. Or something. You know, something
Yeah.
along those
no,
lines.
his delivery. Yeah.
Such
that
a
did not
unique
go how I intended. Yeah.
That joke will not be on the CD.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it's amazing.
The Doubletree joke about how they name their what do you want to name the hotel? 2 trees? No. Doubletree? I like it. Meeting adjourned. And I'm paraphrasing.
That's
of
it.
course.
Yeah.
Of
Second,
course.
second suggestion. They went with the second suggestion.
Yeah, he would pick apart like casual phrases and make them really hilarious. He was a fucking brilliant guy.
Yeah, awesome guy.
You know, I always wonder, and this is the unfortunate thing about when a guy, because like I know how much marijuana has helped me and helped me write, and I'm not shy to admit it. I think like when I write when I'm on weed, I write things that I would never have come up with on my own. I really do believe that. It sounds crazy.
Well-
Maybe I come up with some things on my own, but it's almost like weed is your ghostwriter. And I see a guy like him, and I wonder, like, how much of that was just being on heroin?
I don't know. That's a good question. But I do think with weed or writing on weed, I think that you can come up with, I don't know. I think you're capable as coming up with maybe different jokes, but good jokes without being on weed or being on weed. But maybe like, I mean, I think about that sometimes too. Like smoking pot and going, oh man, like this idea, I would never have thought of it. But then sometimes the next day when I read it, I'm like, it's not really that good. I'm like, but fucking last night I was like, dude, I think I'm like, and then I picture myself in like a billboard covered in money, like he did it, the $1 billion man. You know what I mean? Cover of Forbes, like with like 2 Jaguars in a Jaguar.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like petting
bikinis
girls,
behind you,
just
high
like
heels.
he's
turning
got 3
sideways.
pet cheetahs because fuck it, you know.
because he came up with one idea.
Yeah, exactly.
While he was
but it's never.
high.
That's always what I say to people. As like when you start doing stand up, there's always that or that thing you think is going to happen. This moment where like that's it.
Yeah.
Because it used to be like people would go on Carson, you know, or whatever, and then you realize, oh no, it's just this long journey of like trying to get better at this craft and like.
Yeah, there's no way you ever feel like you made it if you're still working too.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
You're always working on it.
Yeah,
you know, especially as a comic. You're always working on it. You have to be like, yeah, you have to continue to go on stage. Can't take 6 months off here and there and stop touring, and you got to constantly be doing it.
Yep. Or at least constantly be writing and thinking about it and like always ready to go out and try stuff for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. And I think a guy like Hedberg, like he was just people were just starting to catch on to how amazing that guy was.
That's what happened with Hicks too. It was right when people were just starting to hear about him. That's when he died.
That's really sad. I don't even think he probably had a clue
what he started,
and also how he will be forever considered. I don't think he probably has an idea that he's regarded as like one of the greats. Maybe he does or doesn't, but it's like I always think about that. Like that is a guy that in the last 10 years, his legend has only grown. You know?
Well, his material is still relevant, which is really weird. Even the stuff that people might not think is that funny, it's very relevant today.
Yeah,
you know, like maybe the real problem is a lot of things that he said. Everybody says now, and they think, "Oh, what's the big deal?" Everybody says that,
right?
But they don't realize that in 1992, everybody wasn't saying that.
Yep.
It was just Hicks, and it was the first time anybody was ever saying the shit that he said in a stand-up form, like that young man on acid. Dude, young man on acid realizes that life is just, I don't remember how it
when
goes.
he realizes it's like a pointless journey.
And it's a positive news story. The idea was like, why are they always just giving you only negative news stories?
Yeah.
And then, you know, his take on the Iraq War. I mean, he basically had material from then that could be used easily today.
Carlin's the same way with some of his stuff. Like he did a special. My favorite George Carlin special was Jammin' in New York, which he did in like 92, I think, or 1990, 92, around then. And he has stuff in that about the environment that's as like pertinent now as it was, or even more now, particularly now because people are talking about it more. But the Iraq War, talking about Dick Cheney in the Iraq War, like shit that verbatim translated. Talking about gotta go play with our toys in the sand, gotta go play with our toys in the sand, you know what I mean? And it's like it's just talking about all that stuff, like we love war, and just talking about every 10 years we average a war in America, and saying things that are like not only funny but like blow your mind. And then the environment is like, I still believe his theory on the environment, which is like people saying like save the earth, and he's like, no, the earth's fine, like we're fucked. You know what I mean? And it's like when it's ready, it'll shake us off like a bad case of fleas, you know, like we're a surface nuisance, you know. Well,
when you start paying attention to all the different mass extinctions that they've been on Earth, they just pulled up some new evidence that shows there was another comet that hit the Earth way before the dinosaurs that was thousands of times a bigger impact than the one that killed the dinosaurs. Like a couple billion years ago, apparently. We were hit by a planet.
Yeah, that happens. That Earth is, that, you know, that's
just gets smashed.
You know, that's the premise of two of the greatest movies of all time, Armageddon and the other one.
What was the other one?
Deep Impact.
Deep Impact.
I was thinking Haley's Comet. Remember
Deep Impact, they didn't even have to change the name for the porno.
No, they did not. They
kept it. That's a scary fucking image, man. A giant 5 mile wide fucking chunk of rock that's going to slam into the earth and kill everything.
I also think, though, that like any image of your own death is scary.
Of course.
You know? Like, you don't know how it's coming. Everyone thinks it's going to be like 90 and laying in bed and like their grandkids will be like tickling their feet, you know? But like, you don't fucking know.
But even if it is while you're like in bed, like people say, I want to go in my sleep. What if you go in your sleep and the nightmare is that the Grim Reaper is riding your face, choking you to death?
Yeah.
Screaming into your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
a solid way to go out, though. That's a solid way.
Just tattered robes.
Yeah, somebody write that down. I'm getting that tattoo.
He's just on you. He's got red glowing eyes.
I'm getting that tattooed across my back. The Reaper fucking my face, man.
Not fucking your face, like holding your neck. I didn't mean it sexually.
Oh, I thought you meant he was just fucking going to town.
No, I would have said he was fucking your face.
Wake up with the Reaper's cock in your mouth. What's going on here?
Slides and then down all of a sudden like a roto-rooter.
And then you start realizing, why am I resisting so much? I don't mind this, and that's how you die, realizing I like Reaper cock.
That's how you die.
It's your last thought. Shit.
It's like you can get fucked in the ass in your dreams, but you can't die in your dreams.
Right. I don't know. I don't
It's
know if I've
not
ever
as
had I don't know
terrifying.
if I've ever had an ass rape dream. I can't say I have.
Or even an ass sex dream. Like, why are we saying rape? We're not really saying rape. The real nightmare would be that you loved it.
Oh, I guess. Would it? Would it, or would that solve all my problems?
That might solve a lot, right? It would solve quite a few.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I remember like being. I guess I do still have sex dreams occasionally. My dreams aren't like fun anymore. You know, I don't know. I used to have like fun ones where I was like in war and shit. Now they're just more like I'm like I gotta check email. You know, like it's like a really even my like dreams are lame. You know, it's just like nothing about me is cool. Yeah.
I had a dream last night that I cleaned up my office.
Yeah, fucking that's a solid dream, dude.
So I got up this morning and I cleaned up my office.
There you go.
I said maybe my dream's trying to tell me something. I'm a fucking slob, but I need to get my shit together.
Doc, what does this mean? Oh, it just means you should clean your office, actually.
Stop being a slob. Fucking pack rat. Boxes of shit. I got magazines from like the 80s. Like, what am I going to read this again?
You should sell
Details
them, man.
magazine
People-
from like 1989. I
people-
found them. What is
Details,
this? I don't even know. It was from the 80s, but it was old as fuck. It was like stupid old.
That's funny.
I have boxes of shit.
People buy that stuff, old magazines.
I'm not
There's
giving
a
it
whole
to them.
market, you know? There's a whole
Lighting that
market
shit on
for it.
fire. I don't want them alive. I don't want them to have it.
Remember, you used to give me all posters. You used to give me boxes of
dude.
posters. Like, just get rid of this.
Brian eBayed all these posters that I had from like the early days of the UFC.
UFC.
I had Pride posters they're probably pretty valuable.
Yeah, they were. I mean, people were snatching them up.
As he locks his BMW, he's like, yes, they were.
Yeah, well,
They were quite valuable, actually.
it was a lot of. I just had to get rid of it, and I felt the best way to do it was let him.
There you go.
Sell them.
Yeah, there was a few of them that I almost wanted to keep because they were just cool posters.
That sperm one, that Pride sperm one, was pretty dope.
The black and blue one with the guy. I can't remember that.
It was
one.
quite a few. The old Vitor Belfort one, that was one from like early UFCs. Like, yeah, those are. That's interesting stuff, but most of it's just bullshit. Most have fucking old notebooks where I open it up and I just go, oh, what am I keeping this for?
Yeah.
Fucking-
Did you ever read old material and go like, oh man, it's good. It's always like, wow. I'm like, this is so bad. I'm like, no wonder they didn't give me that spot on, on whatever. It's like, oh yeah, that wasn't very good.
It seems like it should be way easier than it is to just figure out a way to write a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it the easiest thing to do is think of a concept of something I like, write it down a little bit, and then play with it on stage. Because I don't know. I don't have like a disciplined writing process as much as I really like finding it on stage and then trying to repeat it the next night if I can. And it's a bad way to do it in a lot of ways because it takes sometimes longer to find the material. But if I record it now, I just record it on my phone. I can listen to it back and go, I told that joke. A certain way. We were kind of talking about this earlier with that joke. It's like I told a joke a perfect way that night and it killed, and I can't figure out what the fuck I did. So now I like being able to go back and listen to it and go, oh, I just paused there. And then sometimes it's just I got lucky that one night. They're not all good.
I have the same process for sure. I think a lot of people do, but I also like try to write stuff out sometimes too. Just you know what I try to do? I try to write like blog entries. Like,
Yeah.
Most of them I never post, but I write the blog entry, and then in the blog entry I find like a gem.
Yeah.
Because you're just sort of writing,
Then
just,
you find,
and then
I
I'll pull that out.
But that's like the same thing as riffing on stage. You're just doing it with your fingers, and I do that on my phone a lot. I just go into the notes thing and I just jam out a thing. But then a lot of that, like I'll read through it again. I'm like, I may have been stoned. Like,
it's for sure.
Yeah, it's like, this is tenuous at best. The connection I'm making here, you know what I mean? And then I realize I'm like, I guarantee you there's 100 books on that topic, and this is not some brilliant new idea. And then I'm like, yep, there it is. There's like, yeah.
Well, there's always that, right? Especially when you think you have an interesting idea that nobody ever thought of today.
Yeah.
You just Google it and you go, oh, look, there's a whole forum dedicated to it.
Yeah, that's actually a question I always have for other comics, which is what is your... Because I have had people come up to me at stand-up clubs both ways, but I've had people come up and go, hey man, there was a comic down here, like I'm in Atlanta or something, some local guy, or Austin, some local guys. There was a comic down here who's doing a bit that you did in your half hour, like, so I just let him know. I was like, yeah, never do that again. It's okay. Like, and by the way, you watched my half hour, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know anyone saw that fucking thing, but it's like the idea that somebody else wouldn't
come up with the same ideas.
Especially premises. Some people are like, oh, just so you know, Louis C.K. does stuff on airplanes. Like, yeah, there's only 100 topics in the fucking world to talk about. You can't call topics. You know?
Yeah, you
like,
can't call airplanes.
Well, you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
like, and I don't think Louis would do. I'm just saying, like, there is this weird thing now, like this comedy police thing. But at the same time, I have seen, and I know you've dealt with it before.
Yeah.
Comics straight up steal other people's stuff, or maybe unintentionally, but
There's
steal
always
it.
going to be that, man. There's always going to be people stealing.
But I do think with the internet now, it's really hard. You know, you do a joke. This used to happen at the Daily Show. Come up with a joke and somebody like, oh, actually, Patton Oswalt tweeted that like an hour ago. It's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Check everyone's Twitter? Like, we got to put a show on, man.
Especially a topical. It's like
Yeah, it's like
more
we're
than
just-
one person
Yeah,
is
we're
going to
just-
come up with an obvious premise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's, like that happens sometimes on Twitter. I write a joke and somebody goes, "Oh, you know, you're 20 minutes behind so and so." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know, man. Like, I didn't steal it.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm like, in both of our defense, it's not that good. Like, it's a Twitter joke.
Yeah. Well, I think there's always going to be parallel thinking, but what people are really worried about is plagiarism. And as long as it's not
Yeah.
plagiarism, I think you kind of know when it's plagiarism because it's never just one instance.
Uh-huh.
Nobody ever steals like one awesome bit.
Totally right.
And then everything else is totally original.
Yeah. Well, I'd never seen anything in my life like somebody did the cut online of the Mencia Bill Cosby from Bill Cosby himself.
Yeah, it's awful.
I mean, yeah, that was astonishing.
And it's not just that one.
No, I know.
That was his whole career.
No, I know, and that was an interesting thing. But you're right, and I've had people say, "Hey, so and so does that bit," and I go, "All right, I won't do it." You know, I mean,
There's a lot of people that want to take shortcuts for everything.
absolutely.
You know, they want to take shortcuts for every single thing there is. And if there was a way that they could just take someone's song and twist it around a little bit and put it in a record and sell it.
Yeah.
This sounds like Back in Black. No, it's Black and Blue.
Blue.
Bro. It's black.
Yeah, yeah.
Black and blue. And I mean, there's fuckers that are like that, man.
Yeah,
That'll
no,
just
for sure.
Copy something and just sort of rebrand it. But you can't do that in music. They'll fucking sue the shit out of you.
Yeah, they'll sue the shit out of you.
You
Yeah.
can still do it in comedy.
No, you can, and I also think it's hard to. I really do think it's more of just an honor system where you
Yeah.
just do your best to do your own stuff. And I always say to people that go, "Oh, you know, what if someone steals a joke?" You go, "I don't know, I'll just write another one." Like I don't know. Like if either you can write more or you can't. Like if
Yeah.
the hour of stuff I was doing right now was the only hour I could ever come up with, then like
Right.
I'm
you're
wasting my
fucked.
time here,
Not
man.
only that,
you know?
you feel well. The only thing I ever feel is there's a certain amount of responsibility you have in saying something, because if you don't say something, then he steals from somebody else, and he doesn't say something, he steals from you. Sort of almost help the problem.
Yeah.
If you don't at least have a dialogue with the guy.
Right.
Because you may never know. Like you might say something to him, and he might have never stolen anything in his life, and he might have not even known that you did it. He might have heard somebody else say it somewhere or something, and forgot, and then come up with it. There's weird things that do happen.
I know.
Well, my friend Mike. He wasn't a thief. He was a young comic. He fell asleep listening to a fucking Dennis Miller CD.
That's amazing.
Or a cassette at the time. And he was like when he was an open micer, and then had this perfect Dennis Miller joke the next day.
That's amazing.
And I go, dude.
He's like, more like the place in Mozambique, babe. And he's like, that's weird.
I think it was.
Why do I keep shaking my head from side to side with all my jokes now? It's like, hey, who wants a cup of gazpacho?
I think it was my grandfather. It was when Reagan was president. He's like, Reagan's 72 and he's got access to the button. My grandfather's 72. We don't let him use the remote control for the TV. I mean, he said it like just like Miller too.
Yeah.
We had to tell him. He's like, fuck.
That's so fun. But that's happened to every
Yeah.
comic. I think at one point or another, you come up with this great idea and you're like, wait, no, I think that's Ted Alexandro's
Yeah.
bit. Wait a minute, shit. You know?
Yeah, Attell is the best at that. He's the best at like he'll call you up like in the middle of nowhere. Hey, have you ever heard this? And they'll like go run the joke by you.
Oh, you mean he runs it?
Yeah,
By, yeah, that's
It's like, have you heard anything like this before?
But
it came too easy.
Attell is also one of those guys I find if I listen to too much, he's like
You can be just like him.
One of my favorite comics. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
find myself sometimes on Quinn too, Colin.
Yeah.
Like those guys are like, oh, look at this guy with the, you know, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not. I shouldn't be doing that, you know.
You know what you do to cure that? You watch Brody Stevens, and then you'll start saying "enjoy it," and it'll balance it out.
Exactly.
It'll like Brody's the most
I love
addictive to
Brody.
me.
Yeah, but
I find myself doing Brody in real life
All the
all the time.
Oh yeah, but Attell,
818.
when Attell does the thing on stage where he'll say something and somebody pulls back and we're like, "Calm down, Rebecca." You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't know anyone's name, but he just makes up names. I fucking, you know, he's like, "Oh, look at Carol over here getting all upset." You know, it's just like, oh my. He's one of those comics where I will occasionally have to walk out of the room because I don't like. I'm like gagging for air. You know what I mean? He's so good. But yeah, if I hear it too much, sure, it gets, get in your head.
You know what's funny about him too, man? Fucking hates everything he does.
Wow.
You talk to him about it, he's like, I fucking hate that. I can't watch it. I can't watch myself.
Yeah.
Like,
He's I don't know. I think that's.
But that's one of the reasons why he's so good.
Yeah. I also think he's just kind of such like a purist. He's like he's like, he's about as legit as you can be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a legit stand-up comic. You know, he's gotten really into kettlebells.
What? No.
Yeah.
Really?
He still
Did
smokes.
you turn him onto that?
I don't think so. I think somebody else must have.
Really?
I don't even know if we talked about it when he was on the podcast, but he still smokes. Yeah. But he's been lifting kettlebells.
That's
Apparently
good.
he's really into it. According to Ari. Ari told me this.
Dave's actually from my hometown, Attell.
Where's that?
Rockville Center.
Where's
so is
that?
Amy Schumer. A lot of
Is that Long Island?
Yeah.
Oh,
Long
where's
Island.
Rockville Center? What's that near?
It's like the South Shore near Garden City. I'm trying to think of towns people know. Oceanside.
What year did you start
Lynbrook.
doing stand-up?
I started right when I got out of school. I did my senior year of college. I did a show in Boston.
So what year? What year was
not
this?
99. And then I got a job at the Daily Show basically right out of school, and I started doing stand-up right then, 22.
Wow. Yeah. And were you doing like East Side? That was East Side wasn't around back then, was it?
I was doing any. First of all,
Was
first
East
thing
Side
I was
Comedy
doing
Club
was
already gone?
I don't think so. No, I was doing Gotham
Gotham.
bringer shows
Oh.
at Gotham, which were like you bring six people, and they do them at like 6:30 at night. So you have a packed house, and it's all new comics. But it was basically asking your friends and family to pay for you to do stand up. So
they do that in L.A. too.
Yeah, and it's a smart thing for the club, and it gives you a sense of what it's like to be on a real stage. I thought it was a great system, and having been from New York, I was able to get my 5 people occasionally. But then after you do that 4 or 5 times, you realize, well, this is not a sustainable business model. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like as generous as it is, but at some point you're like, I don't want to do every set I do in front of my mom and dad because I need somebody to come, and then you start, finding ways to get up. In the beginning, it was I did more of producing my own shows. Getting up at clubs in New York is hard. There's a lot of really, like, you're going up against like Attell. You're like, I want to do 10 minutes tonight. They're like, nah. They're like, first Louis coming in, then Attell, then Ben.
Right.
Ben. Like, you got a lot of great stand-ups living in New York, going to those clubs. So, and it's easy to take a cab from club to club. So I was doing a lot of producing my own stuff in bars and basements and stuff. And then what you do is you barter stage time with the other guys doing that.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'll give you 10 minutes of my, it's kind of like a comedy currency. It was a great way to get up on stage and meet other comics and go to like really shitty basements and do really weird shows and bar. I went to the bar in White Plains, like New York, which is like north of the city. It's like north of Yonkers. And everyone's there hanging out watching a Yankee game. And all of a sudden, the bartender just shuts off all the TVs. And he's like, everyone's, what the fuck, Tommy? Like local bar. And he's like, comedy. And he just like generically points in my direction where I'm standing holding a mic. And everyone's like, what? And then I just had to be like, so, hey, have you guys taken the E train across town? Right? What a nightmare. They were like, kill yourself. Like, I mean, I've had a lot of those kind of shows.
I had to do the exact same type of shows in Boston. We used to do it at this place in Cape Cod. It's me and this guy Al Ducharme and some other dude, I forget. And we were out there in the middle of nowhere and a hockey game was on. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Shut off the fucking hockey game.
Yeah.
To put up comedy. It was death.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then all it is then is an exercise in your ability to sustain humiliation. It's really all it is. There's no people go, oh, you learn from that shit. Like, you learn not to do comedy in a fucking sports bar when there's a game on, But
there's been other ones where they used to do. There was one that Boston Comedy used to book for a little while that was a disco. It was like a nightclub. And they would stop the music.
Sweet.
And they wouldn't even have a stage. They would turn a spotlight on the dance floor. And you would stand there with a bunch of people who are standing. And you do stand up.
That's incredible. I've done rooms where that's incredible.
Nick DiPaolo did it. He almost got in a fight with somebody, and I think that's when they shut it down.
I bet DiPaolo did well. I can handle that. But,
he knows how to handle that kind of shit.
He can handle anything. But yeah, he's another guy who's like
hilarious.
Oh my god, some of his stuff.
Funny.
He's so good. But
he's a good dude too.
Yeah, he's a great. I mean, that's the thing I have found with comedy. When I first started, I remember it feeling like, oh man, like this, everyone in this is like weird and competitive. But then as you do it for a while and you get past that first stage of like crazy, just looking for 5 minutes here and there, and you really start to get to know like real professional comedians and people who do it, there is a like weird bond between people who do stand up. Like I've only had, I mean, I can't say 100% of the time, but I'd say 95% of the time I've met other stand-up comedians at whatever level. I've had a pretty easy time to chat with them and getting along with them. Like it's once you're past that like going on IMDb and seeing what the
Right.
other guys are doing stage, and you get comfortable in who you are. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's been my experience. I don't know about
Yeah,
you.
my experience too. It's. Well, I ran into what the fuck did I run into? I forget who it was. But we were just having this exact same conversation. God damn it, who was it? I forgot. Damn it. I hate when I can't pull up a fucking name. But we're having this exact same conversation. And it seems like when you run into... how many comics are there? Is there even 1,000 professional comedians in the country? So if you're running
Seems
into one
like
at
right
the
now there's
airport-
like 10,000. I don't know. That's how I feel. But
Oh, it was Mario Joyner. That's who I ran into. Mario Joyner, who was the host of MTV Half Hour Comedy Hour. I
know
ran
Mario
into
Joyner.
him at the airport on the way to Toronto. And we were having the same sort of conversation.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as you see someone that's a comic, you're like, hey, I've barely talked to that guy 5 times in my life.
Yeah.
And he was like an old friend.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, because you kind of especially like I've been on the road this last year, you know, and I'm not at a stage like I'm headlining, but I don't have fans. Like I don't have people come see me. So if I go to like Zany's in Chicago, or I go to like Helium in Philly, or I was just in Madison, places where like there's fans of the Daily Show probably more than not, and they promote it pretty well. I could sell out a room that holds like 150 to 200. But if I go down to like Tampa on a Wednesday night in some of those rooms, great. Like I love all those rooms, like Side Splitters and stuff. I love those kind of rooms, but they're big clubs. And you go on like a Wednesday night, like nobody comes. Not, you know what I mean? I'm like, by Saturday there's some people in there, but like Wednesday night, you know, there's like 50 people in a room that holds 400. You're like, hey, you know, like, and people are just like hammered, you know, pooping on themselves, whatever. Like, so it's like but when you have those experiences and you meet other people who've had those experiences, like, you have a lot, you know, there's just eating, like I've tried now to eat as healthy as I can. But when I'm on the road, I just don't even try, because you're in like a hotel in fucking Kentucky.
Right.
And like, this is what I say to people. You know when you're driving on the highway and sometimes you see a guy walking on the highway? I'm like, that's probably a stand-up comedian. Because like you stay in hotels, don't have a car, and they're like, yeah, there's an Applebee's across the highway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, guess I gotta walk a highway. Like it's a weird thing. So you end up doing this stuff other people do that most adult humans wouldn't do. So you have these like a lot of things to bond over, you know?
Well, just the job itself being so strange.
Yeah.
Coming up with a bunch of shit in your head and then saying it on stage.
Oh, totally.
In front of a microphone with a spotlight on you. It's just very bizarre. And the psychology behind it, very few people are going to really relate.
Yeah.
But if you run into a comic, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
You fucking played that room too?
So you know.
You've been to Charlie Goodnight's on a Saturday night?
Right, you know.
When the Country Western Bar is next door. Remember that spot? Mm-hmm. We went next door once. We were at the Charlie Goodnights. Went next door. And there was a Country Western Bar with a bowl, a mechanical bowl,
nice.
packed to the gills. And people were singing songs you've never heard in your life, and everyone knows the fucking words. They're all singing along. And it's America.
Yeah.
It's not like we're in Pakistan.
No, I get it.
And they're jamming in. You're like, well, I'm not from this country, so I don't understand what this...
You know the words.
They are all singing along the songs you've never fucking heard in your life.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
thought you were going to say like the classics. You know,
No, like
Never went down to
Sweet
Georgia.
Home Alabama. Like, you know how you sing to Sweet Home Alabama? Everybody knows that song, right? It's like that, but a song that you've never fucking heard of.
Real country music.
Some real country.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Get her done.
It's like a Travis Tritt tune's on, you know, and you're like,
They go nuts.
Yeah.
That's a whole different part of the world, man.
Yeah. It is.
You ever gone to a place and they start talking to you about NASCAR?
Yeah, I've gone to places where they don't like me a lot, just because like I always feel like the whole thing with stand up, when people say like, well, there's a weird thing you have to get over in the beginning, which is you're kind of an asshole for wanting to do it, right? Because you're basically saying to people, not only do I think I'm funny, I think I'm so funny that you should sit here, not talk, pay money, and hear what I have to say. So like, I always feel like if people don't know you and you don't already have their trust as a performer, they just see some guy coming in the room going, oh, here comes some guy who thinks he's funny, you know? And like, I've found that I end up in conversations with people in places I don't want to, you know, talk to them or about things I don't want to talk to about. And I, in a weird way, I really like it. Like, I really like going to places in America that I probably wouldn't have traveled to, and like talking to like people who are not from the universe I'm in and hearing their perspective on shit. Like, it's kind of interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to talk to people that are just as confident in their beliefs, which are polar opposite of yours. Mm-hmm. And some of them, like, you know, you'll go to some places in the Deep South especially, they'll just assume that you're on their side about certain things.
Yeah.
So they just start chiming in about whatever, fill in the blank about this fucking welfare state or
I also feel that sometimes though there is that perception, and then there's also the flip side, which is not everybody is the stereotype of what you think those places are supposed to be.
That's true.
So you
too.
end up getting in a conversation with people. You're like, yeah, I don't know, like maybe my view on again, like I said, we were talking about Fort Guns. Like, yeah, I totally understand the Second Amendment. I'm pro Second Amendment. At the same time, I do think we can, tone it down somehow. Like we just modify it like we should with some other stuff. But man, you get in a conversation like that with people, and you find a lot of people go, no, I actually agree with you, man. Like, I love guns, and I hunt, and I this and that. But, like, I don't know that it should be that easy to get them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get, like, I find that most people are actually pretty reasonable, and that the, like, extreme people are not the majority. At least my experience.
No, they're not the majority. There's a small percentage, but they're so vocal and so obsessed with it.
And angry, yeah.
I mean, that's with everything.
I know.
With everything. You ever go to a men's rights page and read a men's rights forum? Holy fuck!
Yeah, that's another one where you're going, I don't know. That's a tough train to jump on. Men's rights. I mean, I don't know.
Look, I don't think the guy should get fucked over in divorces, which seems to be the only issue. The only issue to me seems to be like child custody and financial support. That's it. Those are the only. I don't see any other issues.
I think
where else are men getting? I mean, maybe there's something else, but maybe I'm missing it. But
I don't know. I think it depends on the divorce. Like I think that that depending on what went on in that relationship is really the determining factor. I mean, I guess it's more common for the women to get kids and more money, but I think if you're getting kids, like, then you should get the fucking money. Like, it's a guy's responsibility to take care of his kids, even if they get divorced, Unless she did something to, like, endanger the family, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
But, like, I think a lot of times divorces are, more one-sided, maybe than we realize. The point is, I think a lot of times guys are the dick,
sometimes women are evil, though, man.
Yeah, that's true.
I've had friends that have been involved in evil divorces.
Yeah.
I had several friends that lost a shitload of money and they just got scammed.
Yeah.
They got scammed. I can bring you a bunch of stories, which I just don't want to talk about them on the air, but about good friends that fucking lost everything they worked for like a decade.
Yeah, that's
they got
brutal.
jobbed. I know that it happens on both sides.
Well,
women
Bill
get
Burr
fucked over and men get fucked over.
Bill Burr does that bit on in his last special. I think it was his last one. The "You People Are All the Same," where he's talking about we have a gold digging like whore problem in this country.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. He's like, that's an epidemic. Like, nobody taught Arnold Schwarzenegger how to handle that level of life,
Right.
He just goes through what Schwarzenegger accomplished to get to where he is, and he's like, he just makes him a sympathetic character.
That's hilarious.
It's incredible, yeah. And he's like, this guy, we have a gold digging whore problem.
So he was calling Schwarzenegger's maid a gold digging whore.
Well, yeah, he was just. I think he's calling Schwarzenegger's maid a gold. I'm paraphrasing.
I want to see it.
You got to see it.
Sure
but that special
awesome.
That special is one of the best hours I've ever seen.
I love Bill.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah, he's funny as shit.
Yeah, he's incredible.
He always has some great points. He has this great bit that I was listening to the other day about women saying that being a mom is the hardest job in the world. I don't think you do the hardest job in your world in your fucking pajamas.
I know. I mean,
it's so funny because I thought it would be being a redhead roofing in August.
Dude, he talks about guns in that special, and he's saying how he wanted to buy a gun, and the guy wanted a shotgun. Like the guy was trying to sell him on a shotgun,
right.
And the guy's like, "It's got a good spray. It's got a good spray." And he goes, "Look, I just want to hit the bad guy. I don't want to be doing all sorts of drywall work." He's like, "I don't want to." He goes, "I don't want to have to reframe my diplomas and get a new parakeet. I just want to hit the bad guy."
Get a new parakeet.
I must have rewatched that 50 fucking times.
That's really
reframe
funny.
my diplomas.
That's really
but that special, that hour is just like there are moments in that special live on stage in this huge theater where he's talking about like hitting women, things that like you just would be so scared to talk about, and he feels the room back away, and he goes, "Don't pull away." He's like, "Don't back away." He like goes at them. I don't know. It's just the guy's. This is good.
He's the epitome of Boston comedy. Like that Boston style of attack comedy.
Attack comedy and like owning your perspective, owning your shit.
Yeah.
You thought it through. You're gonna fight your fights. It's so good. Yeah.
He has this funny bit too about black people being they get called racist less than white people just because of where they put the word fuck.
Okay.
He goes, because a black guy will go, so yo, there was this Asian motherfucker, and and nobody hits a beat. But if you go, yeah, oh, this fucking Asian, and then it's like he goes, I said the same thing, but I'm racist.
Well,
because I put the fuck in the wrong part.
You put it in the wrong spot. Yeah,
really funny, man.
That's very funny.
It's so true.
Yep.
Because if you were like this Asian fucker, be like, that's like a cool guy. Like an Asian fucker would be a cool guy.
But a fucking Asian
is
a dude who's like screwing you over somewhere. Yeah.
Or it's a guy who doesn't like Asians.
Right.
It's like another one, a fucking Asian. Yeah.
Yep. That's who bought the new house. A fucking Asian. You know?
Exactly.
Ah, Jesus. That
this
was
Asian motherfucker.
Oh, cool. We're gonna fucking go over and have some food.
Have that motherfucker over for a barbecue.
That motherfucker over for a barbecue. Yeah, totally different. That's really funny. Yeah.
Well, this is a good time for comedy, isn't it? It's like it's a good time to like see different comics. There's so many funny comics out now.
I agree too. I also think it's cool. You know, I think that the internet is a cool way to like be exposed to people, you know, and like and see different styles and different. I'm always so happy. Like I said, I go to these clubs and like, you know, they'll pair you up with a middle act or, you know, or features or whatever, the same thing, but or an opener. And like there are a lot of guys out there that are just good. They're just really good. They got like interesting perspectives. They're funny people, and like, you know, there's a couple of comics in Austin I've worked with that are like fucking hysterical, man.
Yeah.
And they're local dudes. And they're like, yeah, they haven't like jumped on the plane yet to LA, you know what I mean? Or New York, wherever they want to do it next. But, you know, that's the really cool thing about comedy is like, I mean, I was from New York and working at the Daily Show, so I didn't do anything but try to get up there, which is, you know, always hard, still is hard. But I did but you know, there's these guys who live in these cities and like there's a whole scene, a whole comedy scene, and they get tons of stage time. So they get really, really good. They go to these smaller markets like Atlanta. I did a place called the Laughing Skull in Atlanta.
I've been in that spot.
Yeah, it's like 80 people. It's and they have like unlimited stage time. They're like, yeah, just whatever, man, have fun. You're like, okay,
yeah,
I will have fun, and not. It's not like 45 minutes. Come on, we got to flip the tables. It's just like, yeah, enjoy yourself. That's what we do here at the Laughing Skull. And like all the comics are there. They're cool. They're good. They're funny. It's like, oh, there's a whole way to get good at this without having to, you know, beg people to give you 10 minutes, which is nice.
Yeah, well, there should be a bunch of different options, but it's cool when a club like the Laughing Skull comes along where you have like one club which is sort of the epicenter of creativity.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not making a lot of money there. They can't be. They're having good comics. I'm sure they're paying the bills and stuff, but it's not motivated by that. Like, there's a real feeling to that place.
Yeah, it's the restaurant bar that's attached to it that's, I think, making the money.
Yeah, which is killer too, by the way. They have some of the best fucking cheeseburgers you'll ever eat in your life.
Well, it's a real like southern grease pit. It's so good. Yeah. I actually did a couple, like after each show, I'd like to have a to-go whatever gross thing I ordered, and like, you know, that's like another thing you always can bond with comics about is like the gross thing you ate in your hotel room. You know, like just waking up, like, you know, like going out doing a gig at Philly, going home, stopping, getting a cheesesteak, going in your room, just like leaning over the desk in a Hyatt, like devouring a cheesesteak, and then getting right into bed. You know, it's like just terrible decision making. You know,
I've done that many times. I was going to wear my Greasy Tony's t-shirt today.
Yeah,
I found it. I was cleaning out my closet. I threw out a bunch of shirts. You know, like old stupid like MMA t-shirts that people would give me. And so I just had stacks of shit that I've been throwing away, and this Greasy Tony shirt.
Damn.
Yeah,
awesome.
no charge for extra grease. There used to be this place, Greasy Tony's, which is across the street from the Tempe Improv.
Okay.
And it was the quintessential late night, take it back to your hotel room, eat it. You'd wake up, your room would smell like peppers and steak.
Exactly.
What was it called? The garbage pail? The garbage pail.
Yeah, that was his big one. He had a big sandwich called the garbage pail. And everything was in it. Peppers and tomatoes and lettuce and steak. And oh my God, it was ridiculous.
Yeah. And did you see the grease stains on like the Hilton blotter on the desk from the guy before you?
He died of a heart attack.
Oh, shocker.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Who saw that coming?
Yeah, shocking. Newsflash.
He was a great
fat, unhealthy guy who cooks things called garbage sandwiches that dies of heart attack.
Well, we saw him after like a bunch of years. You know, we see him there every year. One year he wasn't there, and then we saw him the next year. Apparently, he'd had a heart attack and then had heart surgery, and he lost a ton of weight, and you could tell like the end was nigh.
Yeah, well, once they cut you open.
And then the next time we came back, he was dead.
Yeah.
He was nice. but it was one of those spots. Tempe Improv. You ever do that place?
No.
Oh, it's great.
Not
It's
done.
great club. It's a wild town. Those people fucking party.
There was a few places that every time we were in that city, we were always like, we got to go to like Biba's or whatever was that called in Houston across the street. They had that cheese, the melted cheese. I think it was Biba's.
Had that cheese.
Yeah, the Greek place. The Greek place.
Yeah, Biba's.
I love it.
So I fucking forget the name, man. It went under too. Didn't that place go under?
I think so. Or it got flooded.
Well, that
during the
club
hurricane.
went under, so no one goes down there anymore anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that was a perfect example. Like Houston was an incredible place for comedy,
Yeah.
but it was all because of the Laugh Stop. The Laugh Stop in River Oaks. Oh my God, what a club!
Really?
What a club! It was fantastic. I recorded my first CD there in 1999.
That's sick.
Oh, the place
And
was
then
the
it just
best.
closed down?
Just went under.
Huh.
The guy who was running it was this crazy dude who a lot of people implicated with getting, like, people were mad at him. He got drugs allegedly for some comedians and could have included Hedberg allegedly.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And-
So he like.
Well, he was running the club, but apparently he was siphoning money allegedly. It was
I love that you're saying allegedly.
allegedly.
Yeah.
These are strange times. People
I
sue.
know. It's true.
I'm not even saying his name, but either way, that guy, for all his faults, was the reason why comedy was so like big, in that he like completely supported open mics, completely supported like young talent,
Yeah.
completely supported local talent. Had a good open mind when it came to comedy. Really wanted to do the right thing. It just wasn't really his club. He was like working for it, and he he led everybody to believe that it was his club.
Gotcha.
There was really an actual owner behind it. and
Yeah, and then he.
the books were cooked allegedly. But man, when we were working there, it was amazing. It was the perfect setup. The stage was perfect. The audience was perfect. It was one of the proudest places that I like. God, I got in at the Laugh Stop. To me, it was like where Kinnison started out.
All right.
Hicks started
Yeah,
out
like it
there.
meant something to you. Well, I find
Yeah.
that a lot of the times I've had, not a lot of the times, but there's been a few times where I've gone to clubs that are new. There was one in New York that opened a couple years ago that I loved called Comics. And now a lot of comics didn't like it because it was like too glitzy and nice. But I used to do a lot of sets there. It was, if you packed the place, it was a really great room. And but they treated you like almost too well, you know? Like
get
it was
confused?
like, yeah, well, no, there was like a green room, and then they would like give you, there would be like a menu. They'd be like, order anything you want. And it was like, this place can't sustain. Like, there's no way you can feed comics like that and keep this place going. There's no way. It's New York City. Like, the rent must have been $50,000 a week in a
Right.
month, whatever. So all of a sudden, over time, and again, I love this club, but we'd be sitting in the green room, and then, you know, there used to be menus and like Fiji water and things. It was like, holy shit. Like, this is like a Tuesday night show we're doing for like 50 people, or if that, and there's fucking unlimited. And then all of a sudden, near the end, all of a sudden you go in the green room, and the menu was just like sliders. There was like one thing on the menu now, and then it was like a thing of water, a pitcher of water, you know what I mean? And then
Really?
like you started, yeah, like they started to just scale back on all that stuff, and that's when you were like, this place is going down. You just, and then all of a sudden they were doing things where after comedy they were having DJs come in for like late night dance parties, and I'm like, yeah, shit. It was like,
Was that the one that was connected to the hotel where you could just go up?
no,
No,
it's
that was the one that was in an area that's not known for live entertainment.
14th. It's right by, like in the meatpacking, 14th and 9th. It used to be a bar called shit. What was it called? It was an old. It was like a throwback saloon kind of bar that they used to have in New York. I can't think of the name of it. It was kind of famous, and they had peanut shells on the floor, and like, so it was like a Coyote Ugly type of place. And I once went there. I went with her one time when I was in college, and I saw a guy in a wheelchair get into a fight with a guy not in a wheelchair, and he won. It was one of the more amazing things I've ever seen in my, yeah, like a bar fight, except one of the dudes was in a wheelchair, and he launched himself out of the wheelchair, tackled this guy, and was just pummeling this dude.
Oh my God.
It was, yeah, it was. I was just, you know, it was one of those bar fights that happened so quick. You just sort of going like, is that dude? Did that guy just jump out of a wheelchair? You know, and then it got broken up, and he just kind of like
Crawled back to his wheelchair?
not barely even crawled. He like just like forehand things in a spring, and he was back in his chair. It was like, wow, that dude's fucking guy's for real. You know, that's when I pitched my wheelchair fighting show, which never went. Yeah.
Cripple fight.
Well, you ever seen those wheelchair basketball guys?
Yeah.
Those motherfuckers can move.
Oh, they're serious fucking athletes. Yeah, but that was a really weird bar. Like for New York City, that was not like, that was before everything kind of turned in that area. Like it was a really like shady, the kind of place where like dudes got into fights with guys in wheelchairs, you know? Like
Yeah, those areas that used to be shady and aren't shady anymore. That's amazing to me how that happens.
Not only are they not
just start
shady,
buying
but
up real estate.
they're
and they become-
unaffordable.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
crazy.
The New York City has become completely offensively unaffordable.
Yeah, I looked at some places when I was there last. Like if I lived here, what could I afford? And it's like, what that costs? What?
Well,
that's an apartment, huh?
yeah, I mean,
how much is that a month? What are you fucking kidding me?
The standard used to be, if you were going to buy a place, like maybe 8, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, would be like $1,000 a square foot. So 1,000 square feet was $1 million, and that's like without a view or whatever.
Right.
But now those prices are even higher. I think from the listings I've seen, and now in Queens, like neighborhoods that I don't care. Like I'm saying, I'm from Long Island. Queens is part of Long Island, right there. It's like 10 minutes probably from where I grew up. But now you're starting to see these neighborhoods are flipping in Queens. Are like Long Island City is the coolest. You got to get a place there. Now those apartments are $1,000 a square foot, and they're outside the fucking Midtown Tunnel. And I'm like, listen, I don't care who you're selling on fucking Queens. It's Queens. Like, it's gonna be Queens. It's not gonna not be Queens. Like, don't buy a place there for $1 million.
But what about Brooklyn? Brooklyn didn't used to be Brooklyn.
Brooklyn is the same thing. Yeah, Brooklyn completely turned. Yeah, I mean,
but it's really turned around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
I'm a
super
horrible real
expensive
estate guy, clearly. Because even in Brooklyn, I'm like, yeah, look at these idiots in Williamsburg. You know, I don't know what they're doing, but yeah.
My friend had a place in Brooklyn that was almost better than living in Manhattan.
Yeah, Brooklyn's
Because-
awesome.
Well, he had a place where he was across the river, but he had this like top floor of this apartment where you would look out and you see the most insane city because you saw the city and the water from a distance.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you might have the best view in the world.
Yeah, that's
like, it might be worth living in Brooklyn just for this view.
Well, that's what they're selling in Queens because you're right on the other side of the river.
Yeah.
So you're looking right at Midtown. basically.
That view is insane.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It's almost better than being in it because
Yeah.
when you're in it, you're like butted up with all these other buildings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Shane Smith's got a spot like on the river.
Yeah, that's
and you like
sweet.
look out from his living room. It's just all glass. You're like, what the fuck?
But places like that, if you got them, I don't know him or when he got his place, but it's like that kind of real estate was like a home run 15 years ago. You know what I mean? But now it's all been discovered. Like
Yeah.
the city is completely. It's unaffordable to be quite
the
honest.
thing is, like, if you look at it from Jersey, it doesn't look as good. Like, you really want to be in like You want to be like right there
Mm-hmm.
on it. Like, have you ever seen the views of like up Doheny in the Hollywood Hills?
Yes.
Dude,
Sick.
at nighttime,
Yeah.
you can't believe how cool it looks. It looks like you're in a science fiction movie.
I know, it's crazy.
Because you're on a hill looking down at the light grid of LA.
Yeah.
And it's magical. It's almost cooler than the stars. It really is.
It looks a lot like the star. You're above them. Like
Yeah.
it looks like. Yeah, it's very cool.
It's the
Yeah.
best view in all of LA. Like, LA has some great views. The views of the ocean is pretty badass. The views of the mountains are pretty badass. But the
Yeah.
view over like Doheny looking down, like any of those really high
Yeah,
spots.
Those Hollywood Hills spots are full of
Fuck.
shit. Yeah.
Those are scary places though, man.
Yeah.
Those Hollywood Hills houses get robbed.
Do they?
Yeah, that's where like the Girls Gone Wild, whatever his name is. Yeah, that guy, Joe something or another. He got fucking ass, something like that. I think it might have been personal. Somebody might have done something to him up there. But people like Ice-T got home invaded up there.
Really?
Yeah, I know a dude who was in the middle of the night. Someone tried to break into his house.
Shit.
Yeah,
That's scary as
yeah,
hell.
I know a guy who got murdered up there.
What?
Keanu Reeves the other day had 2 people break into his house in the same day, and
the
one of
hills?
them was naked. Yeah.
But doesn't he know? Doesn't he know jujitsu?
Victory. I know jujitsu. That's a victory on his part.
That's I did not know that. I don't know
The
that
Hollywood
much about
Hills-
the LA area. I started living there. I got a place out here, and I was digging it, man. I was really into it. Now I'm going back to do this other thing in New York for a while. So, I like it out here a lot. I really
Well, the
do.
nice thing is the weather. The weather's awesome.
Yeah, but I don't know. Also, just the lifestyle. There is a difference. Like when I first got here a couple months ago or a year ago, I was thinking like, oh man, people out here like don't work. What the fuck? You know, in New York, people are working like. Well, look, I was saying how expensive it is. Like you got to
Right.
work 11 hours just to keep the lights on there,
Yes.
right? But then you realize here, not that it's definitely cheaper real estate wise, but it's also the style of living is not. There's like more people like have lunch and like ride their bikes and like exercise. Like I don't have more free time. Then you start realizing, oh, that's a whole other way to live. I kind of like this way to live. You know, you don't have to just be like turning the work machine off. It feels like people work at a TV show. They go on a hiatus. They float for a couple months and they pick up another gig. They're not like at least that was been my perception.
Maybe it's just, it's also, like you said, also the amount of money that you need to spend to live in New York. You kind of have to work like
all
that.
the time. Yeah, I don't know. It's like the culture there. It's like people don't ever, and half the jobs, not even half, like it feels like a majority of the jobs in New York are just jobs where you like sell money to make money, like there's all these like Wall Street guys. So there's not even like
an industry.
They're not even like contributing. They're not even like, it's not like shoes are coming off an assembly line. They're just like, here's some paper, here's more paper, like here's more money, and then they're like jet ski, woo, you know, like it's like this unstoppable like wealth machine. It's kind of gross, you know.
And they've become accustomed to it. Nobody wants to abandon it.
No,
like they love it.
No, yeah,
all
and
the
it's like
people that run the
this
banks.
hedge fund thing. Like it's super wealth. Yeah,
the Young Turks had this thing that they were doing about the presidential campaigns, and they have something on their link on their website where you can you could write in people who you'd like to see run for president instead of Hillary Clinton or whatever. And they were talking about how much money Hillary Clinton has gotten from banks just recently, from Goldman Sachs, like doing speaking engagements, like hundreds of thousands of dollars just recently.
Yeah.
Just to give these sympathetic speeches about how people don't understand the banks aren't that bad and this is all the good
whatever
things
it
the bank
takes.
does.
Whatever it takes. Yeah.
And
I mean, you're not going to stand on your principles when you're looking to raise money.
Those people are they're making too much money. Yeah. They're fucking using exactly what you said, using numbers, moving ones and zeros, and taking big percentages of those movements. Yeah. And no one understands how or why.
Not only do people not understand it, but like it really makes you feel like the economy is all make believe anyway, right? Because it's like this weird thing where like you look at your computer screen and there's like numbers on it, and then when you buy something, like those numbers go down, but then you have the thing. Like there's no like sometimes with my credit card, like I hand somebody my credit card and then they like give me said item. I'm like, I just get to leave with this now. Like I've never really given you anything. You realize that you just swiped a thing and like
you
it's like
sign this thing.
Yeah, it's just like a weird. There's like this weird lack of actual exchange that's occurring, and so these guys have like figured out that system somehow.
Well, they have, but they have only because of the need for a third-party system, and that's where Bitcoin and things like that get very interesting and terrifying for people that run things right now financially. Because if digital currency gets adopted, and it is adopted in a lot of ways now, like there's a lot of things you can buy and pay for in Bitcoin. There's a lot of people are doing shows where you could pay for their show in Bitcoin. They're buying televisions, and Tiger Direct is selling computers with Bitcoin. I think Dell's using Bitcoin too, right? I think I might be wrong about that, but if that catches on, then this whole business goes away. Yeah. Because there's no third party. If you sell microphones and I say, hey Rory, I want to buy a microphone, how many Bitcoin is it? And you tell me how much and I give it to you and we're done. It's just between you and me.
It's just a current, like a private currency.
But not only that, the IRS doesn't know how to handle it. They're calling it property. They're not saying it's income.
I bet they'll figure out a way to make money on it though.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, they're figuring out a way to make money on marijuana.
Well, that's the whole. To me, though, that's the only really. I mean, I guess now it's becoming legal all over the country, but it feels like, if they want to make money, like just tax weed and make it legal, like. That's going to get us out
hundreds of millions.
Yeah, like very quickly. Like it's just like that's it. Like everybody wants it, and then you'll make money, and then whatever, take some extra money for it. At least it's not illegal. I mean, people go to jail for weed still. It's like
it's fucking up this economy because you're giving people money in a way. If you make it illegal, you're giving people. They're going to sell it. They're just gonna. So you're giving people money, and you're figuring out some sort of a way where they have to juke the system. They're not going to pay taxes on it. You're not going to get your cut. In Colorado, they get 39%. Like if you buy a joint, 39% goes to taxes, and everybody's like, okay. Yeah. Everybody's like, who cares? It's still fairly cheap. Yeah. It's still a couple bucks for a joint or whatever it turns out to be.
Between the altitude and the weed at this point, those guys.
Well, you go out for drinks. How much do you spend? Yeah. I mean, everybody buys a drink. It's $5. It's another $5. You buy a round for your buddies. It's $30. It's this. It's that. You're at the end of the night, you're out a few $100. If you have a couple $100 of weed, you're in a fucking coma for a week.
No shit.
You might not survive. Well, you might be the first guy to die from a couple $100 of weed.
But that's why it's like. That's why it's. I think that there's the hesitations, though. I think that there's a lot of like big business concern about what does that mean. Like,
definitely.
Like, alcohol companies, tobacco companies, like all sorts of big bribe politicians kind of industries are worried. What do you call it? Prescription drug companies. People that are like concerned that they won't be controlling this substance that people can. It's a lot easier to grow pot in your backyard than it is to like stomp grapes and make wine, I think. Or maybe not. No doubt. I don't know.
Well, it's also they have a real problem when you're running any sort of a giant corporation is that your business has to increase every year. It's these unlimited growth models.
Right.
Those are ridiculous. Because
Yeah.
if you have stockholders, you have to make the money. And the way we're up 5% this quarter.
Right.
Well, if you keep going, you're going to have all the money on the planet.
Right.
How is that possible?
It's so weird. Yeah,
You can't keep going if you're open for another 100 years of business. It seems to me that if I do my calculations, IBM or fucking Apple, you have all the money.
Yeah.
If you keep growing, you own everything.
Yeah.
At a certain point in time, just that sounds ridiculous.
Well, there's going to be like 4 companies in the whole world. It's getting there now anyway, especially as they start to like combine.
Well, so they all have to be terrified about any potential loss in revenue. So potential loss in revenue because of legalization of things, even if they came up with a potential loss in revenue, but it would cure Ebola. There's a lot of companies that would be like, fuck that. We're not losing money.
Yeah.
Fuck those Africans.
Yeah.
Hey, if they want to fucking play with bodies over there, go at it.
I think that's a very accurate, from my understanding of it, which is limited, I won't pretend it's not, but it's like from my understanding of it, it seems that the straight up hardcore business mentality is the only thing that matters is the bottom line, is how much we made, and that's the job that they have, is to just make sure those numbers get high, and then it becomes this sort of thing. Well, who's to tell them what they should or shouldn't do with that money? And that's that's a larger argument. They go, well, government's taking tax on any of that money, so technically they're giving a lot of it away. That's not anyway. So then why do they have to cure Ebola? Why can't they just get a crystal bathtub? Like, what's the fucking, who's to say they can't, right? And that's where you get into this, like, what I call, like, the soup of America right now, where it's just like, people are mad that there's, like, these super rich people, but then there's another group of people who are poor and being told that someday they will be super rich, so they should protect the super rich people. And then there's the left who just feels like, oh, no, everybody's got to everyone should have an equal share of everything, and I don't know. You
can't have an equal share.
Well,
'cause some people don't do equal work, and that's the opinion of the right. In a lot of ways,
I agree with that opinion. Yeah, I don't think everybody does equal work and deserves equal pay, but at the same time, like, there is a sector of the population that has not had an equal opportunity to succeed, and that's a reality. Like, that those people have not had an opportunity.
That's the big point, right?
Yeah,
that's the number one point.
So.
I think so too.
Yeah, so it's like you can't compare my childhood to some kid from the inner city.
You can't compare some kid from the inner city to Africa.
No,
these people that grow up in these mud huts in Africa where, the fucking, the Ebola lady who died in the hut next door and the husband's trying to pretend she's not dead.
Right.
And the whole city gets sick. I mean, that guy's got it way fucking worse than anybody in America ever.
For sure. But I mean, talking strictly, because once you start getting into international problems, like,
here's where it's
where it really gets fucked up. Because even with global warming.
Somebody just told me this the other day. I forget who it was. The real 1%, when you talk about the 1% of the people that make the most wealth in this world, if you make $35,000 a year, you're in the upper 1% for the planet.
For the planet.
For the planet.
Okay.
$35,000 a year. If you make $35,000 a year, you're in the upper 1% for the planet. Wrap your fucking head around that.
That's a true. No, I mean, I don't know.
I'm just repeating it.
Yeah, fuck it.
You're totally wrong.
Shit. Yeah.
I should
Allegedly.
Google it.
Allegedly.
I'll Google it.
No, but I do think that's true. I think that, like, when you start, strictly speaking, domestically, because if you start going internationally, it gets really complicated. Because even with global warming, people talk about, like, changing, how we live on the planet. But it's like, that's not just America. You'd technically have to get the entire world in on that shit. I don't know if you've seen, like, what's pumping out of the sky in China, but
God,
it's
that's
not
so scary.
It ain't pretty, So even if we turn our shit around, like, the world is.
See that volcano, Joe, in Japan?
Yeah, dude. It's so funny you said that because I was on this run last night of researching super volcanoes.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a fucking idiot, man.
What was the point? You're just scared of an eruption?
I went into Yellowstone, and I was reading about Yellowstone. And about how often it's blown and how many people have died. And then I found out there's one actually in California. Mm-hmm. There's one in California.
Where?
There's one in like northern California. There's a caldera volcano.
Really?
Yeah. That it hasn't blown in X amount of 100,000 years, but there's one in California, and then there's the Yellowstone one.
Oh, you mean Old Man Steam Pipe?
Well, there's an even bigger one in Indonesia that they think might have been responsible for the reason why all human beings come from like a group of original humans. They think that the one that happened in Indonesia was so fucking big, 75 million years ago or whatever it was, or 75,000 years ago, that it killed so many fucking people that there was like very few people left, and that we all came from the survivors of this extreme cold front that washed over the entire country or the entire world and put the world into essentially an ice age.
Shit.
Yeah, and nothing anybody could do about that. Doesn't matter how much plastic is in the ocean. Doesn't matter how much you clean up the streets. Doesn't matter how much you stop the gentrification of Brooklyn and fucking give back to the poor.
Yeah.
If that motherfucker blows, that's a wrap.
Yeah.
If that motherfucker blows, there's not much anybody can do but try to figure out a way to can food and preserve, you know, as much nutrients as you can in bags and get underground.
Yeah.
And you probably bring some fucking vitamin D because you're not going to get any from the sun for the next
you bring
decade
a tanning
or so.
bed. Let's be realistic. You bring a high-end tanning bed. Vitamin D.
The video of the tourists with all the ashes just coming right towards them, and they're still finding bodies in this ash. It was, I guess, knee deep.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
Man.
That's so scary.
That's really scary.
That's scary that they can't predict that shit too. It just sort of blows, man. It just boom.
Yeah. Well, they can't really.
Yep, it's $34,000 globally. $34,000 a year. You're in the top 1%.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's absolutely crazy.
That's what's really going on in the world. That's what should scare the fucking shit out of everybody.
Yeah. No, it is.
That's real disparity.
Yeah, it is real disparity. We do take most of what we have, I think, for granted. I mean, you know, it's like you ever like when I flew in here, you know, it's like they got on the PA on the plane. They go, oh, you know, the Wi-Fi's down on the plane. And you hear people like, ugh. You know,
Really? CK has a whole bit about that.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah. There it goes.
Oh, wait, the one about exactly. Is that the one about then what? You fly like a god?
No. He's like everything is awesome and nobody's happy.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
he's like the whole
I don't
thing
know
about
that bit,
the
but I know
Wi-Fi shutting down on the plane. That's exactly.
Oh, really? So there you go. Yeah. No,
like this
I have
fucking
not
piece of shit doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's like, it goes to space.
Yeah. Well, no. Is that this in that same bit where he says, and then what? You fly like a Greek myth.
Oh yeah,
is that, okay.
I think so. Yeah,
that's from Hilarious. I didn't know he talked about Wi-Fi in planes because I thought that was.
Well,
and
he did.
I wasn't even not even trying to do a bit. Again, perfect example of what we were talking about, but not trying to do a bit, but just the idea of like we do take. And Louis, I think, is on the forefront of bringing all that shit up. Like that's why he's so fucking awesome. It's just like we're always unhappy and we take everything for granted. And I couldn't agree. The thing that opened my eyes to that more than anything was when I did a USO stand-up tour last summer in Afghanistan and hung out with those fucking guys and was like, not only am I a huge pussy, which had been confirmed years ago, but I have no right to even fucking bitch about the kind of shit that you can think of to complain about. You know?
No right, zero.
Yeah, zero right. And I really have made an concerted effort to like not let that kind of shit bother me anymore. Even when people talk about
AT&T
versus Verizon, you fucking get like, dude, it's a fucking touchscreen computer in your pocket. Like 10 years ago, you couldn't even imagine the shit you could do on this. You know, people like fucking like,
But
it's amazing.
If he's got a fucking signal and I don't, I'm pissed. I don't care what you say.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is
he's downloading shit and I can't even check my email.
Well, the reverse part of the argument is, but I'm also spending like $200 a month for it. So like, you better fucking work. You know, like,
right?
That's the other part of the argument. You know.
Well, how much should it be worth? What's the realistic number
of what?
How much should a phone be worth? It should be worth like $1 million. I mean, this fucking phone.
Right.
How much can it do for you?
But that's when
you think about what a phone actually does.
But when they're
do
built
for
by
you?
slaves, Joe,
that's
they
where
don't
it
have
gets
to.
Tricky.
They don't have to. Yeah, you know, that's again where you get in the hypocrisy of all things, where you can't ever escape being unintentionally being a hypocrite.
Well, not even unintentionally. Let's just put willfully ignorant at the top of the list. If anybody that's like super progressive, I'm only a vegan, I'm only trying to save the whales, I don't want to harm anything, but I have a fucking iPhone.
Yeah.
Like you have
human rights
you have
issue.
a little bottle of conflict minerals in your hand.
Sure do. Yeah.
That shit came out of an African boy dug that shit out of a hole in the ground with a stick.
Yeah.
That's probably the origin of the minerals in the Coltrane inside your phone.
Yeah. And then like a suicidal worker in a Chinese factory put this thing together on like 2 hours of sleep and like a 30-hour workday.
Yeah, with a place that has nets all around the building.
So that when they do or if they jump, they might not die.
I had this conversation with somebody about that.
It's pretty It's actually very fucked up, and we just deal with it because whatever, man. What am I going to do? Not have a phone, you know?
Yeah, we accept it. There was a company for a while that was trying to do a Fairphone. You remember that? Google that Fairphone. See if that whatever happened with that. There was they were only going to do like 3G, and people were like, "What? What about 4G LTE? Fuck this Fairphone!" And everybody just abandoned them. But the
Take
idea
out the
was,
whips, boys. We got to be. Yeah, we need 4G.
No conflict minerals. They were going to do it. They were going to. It was going to be ethical. It was going to cost a little bit more.
Fairphone. There it is.
Yeah. But what I was going to say,
interesting.
I had this conversation with a friend, and he was like, well, did you know that the people that jump off the building in China, actually the same percentage commit suicide at those factories as the national average? I go, yeah, but how many of the national average kill themselves while they're at work?
Yeah.
They're
I don't
killing
know.
themselves. And he's like, yeah, but they work there and they live there too. I'm like, yeah. See, that's the problem.
Right. In other
Listen to-
words, you can't. Oh well, if it's the national average, like it still seems like if the guy who made my phone wanted to kill himself, it's still a little bit. There should be a little bit of guilt in
That's
every
a haunted
fucking,
device.
in every fucking call. You know.
Yeah, that fucking device is haunted, right?
Yeah.
It
There's
should
a
make you
chance.
feel terrible.
Yeah, it should.
You should be freaking
every
the
time
fuck
it
out.
rings. It should make you feel a little sad.
Yeah,
you
this,
know?
but
It's not
I need
normal
it.
not to.
I ordered a 6. I haven't
Yeah,
gotten
you
mine
haven't
in.
gotten
I'm
your
waiting.
6?
I'm waiting on my 6. The
Yeah.
Fairphone is now in stock. What's the specs, Brian? Read the specs. Can you read it?
It's right here. It says front camera 1.3 megabytes, Android
Gigabytes?
OS.
You mean gigabytes?
Yeah, no.
Megapixels, rather?
Yeah, gigabytes.
Megapixels.
Megapixels.
Yes.
Android OS
That's
4.2 Jelly Bean. Smells like patchouli.
Kit Kat. Isn't Kit Kat? Isn't the new one?
And all the crystals inside are spiritual crystals.
Right.
They're all like, remove demons from your soul.
Which version of Android does it run? Is that the latest?
No.
No.
And
What the
it's-
fuck?
Yeah, it looks, it literally is like a phone from 5 years ago.
But
much.
but what is their pitch? Like, what do they guarantee? Like, how much?
Everyone who worked on it was really happy.
Conflict free. Our soldering paste uses 10.
Ew.
Yeah,
It's gonna get shitty signal when you're on the subway. Don't get it.
Yeah.
It uses paste.
Yeah.
What?
Soldering paste.
Soldering paste.
Yeah.
Soldering paste.
We made it with the yucca plant. We ground the roots to make a biodegradable paste.
phone.
GPS, Wi-Fi, and grass-fed Bluetooth.
Grass-fed.
Is it gluten free? Is that a gluten free
yes.
phone?
It's also
Encompass injects.
HMO, no HMOs,
No
whatever.
GMOs.
HMOs.
It's not homo.
No HMOs,
It's a
no
healthcare.
MSG, no
No
HMOs,
MSG.
no GMOs.
Yeah, it's
fucking-
super awesome. It's just awesome.
Gluten-free.
It makes you a better person when you have it in your pocket.
Totally does. Yeah,
It doesn't
does.
give you cancer like every other phone.
Nope. It actually cures cancer.
You know
that phone.
Sheryl Crow thinks she got cancer from her phone?
I did not know that.
Sheryl Crow has brain cancer. And she attributes it to when she was,
Really?
when she was doing that, all I wanna do is have some fun. Apparently, when she was doing press for that album, like back in the 90s or whatever it was, she had, it was little old school phones.
Yeah.
She did hundreds of calls, and she did them all with her cell phone.
Without a.
No, just holding it up to her
Holding
head.
it to her head.
That's what everybody did. Nobody had a fucking button. You remember those old phones like a StarTAC? Those didn't have a thing for a microphone.
No.
You didn't have a thing that you put on your ear.
And we liked it.
Yeah. I was happy.
I used to start tack uphill both ways.
But now everybody has some sort of a headpiece.
Yeah.
For the most part. I usually use like the same earbuds. That they
Me
have.
too.
Those microphones are good, man. Those little Apple ones.
Oh, I love them.
I've tried a bunch of different things, but it seems like everybody can hear me from those little white Apple ones.
The
good
best.
ones. The best. They seem to be like everybody wants the newest, but for just being on the phone,
Yeah.
those seem to be the best.
Yeah. I also think when you have the Bluetooth earpiece is always weird me out because it feels like, well, isn't that still a signal? Like,
Right.
doesn't that defeat
Yeah,
the whole
that's-
purpose?
yeah,
And like you still
cancer.
have something radiating next to your
I've
head.
never heard anybody dying from it, but what if it makes you just a little stupider?
I don't know. That could be already what's happening.
Well, that's what people worry about Wi-Fi signals. I mean, I don't know how much time you spend in the real wilderness, but this is going to sound totally unscientific and probably ridiculous. But
I like it.
I have a feeling that there's a little something that your body is interacting with when you're in a room that has Wi-Fi, when you're in a town that has radio, there's television signals in the air. Everywhere you go, there's cell phone signals. There's signals in the air, and they freak out bees. Bees have a real hard time
which
with
is a
cell
big-
phone
it's a big
signals.
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the big problems. Pesticides is another
And
one.
bats too. Bats are getting all fucked
But
up.
bats are getting fucked up too because
Yeah.
their signals all like.
Yeah, they can't track. Yeah, they can't track their signals. They like end up fucking eavesdropping on your call and hitting a fucking bus or something.
Yeah, maybe if your phone drops off, it's because a bat. A bat died.
Every time you drop a call, a bat dies.
Just think about what's going on in the air. There's so much stuff in the air. And if you were a bat or a bee, it's like they're having a 24-hour fucking party next door.
Yeah,
like you live
all
in
the
this
time.
awesome neighborhood. You grew up there. Your family's from there. Everybody else's family's from
Yeah.
there. And in this neighborhood, every time you would open the door, you'd just hear chirp, chirp, chirp. You would see fucking butterflies flying. And then next door, this fucking death metal band. And they rehearse 24 hours a day.
Or Zac Efron's frat moves in next door.
I
That
didn't
could
see
be
that.
the other one. But yeah, no, and the other part of that too is when you go into like a less populated area that doesn't have all these signals, you ever go to lock your car with your little like key fob thing, and you could do it from like two blocks away when you're not, but when you're in like a city, you got to go like next to the door because the signal can't, like it's always that little sign of like there's a lot of shit flying around in the air all the time. But
just to think of that signal, what is happening there? I'm pressing a button and then this little thing flies over and opens and you could start your fucking car with it.
And you know they have them for cell phones too, right? Where you could start your car from
your phone.
Yeah.
From miles away.
My car can do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so ridiculous.
I can unlock my car.
Disengage that. Dude, disengage
No, but
that.
in other words,
I'm thinking of going old school and getting a car that you need to use a fucking key to open.
I like a car with a key.
I need a car with a key.
Yeah. The only problem with a key car is if you're in a parking garage and there's a murderer coming after you, you always drop him. You know what I mean? You can't ever get him in the hole.
My car doesn't have a keyhole, like a keyhole at all.
There's no hole.
There's no hole anywhere on my car.
But can't you leave your keys? Like, I don't
think my Porsche has a keyhole.
Yeah.
Shit.
I don't think it does.
Yeah, because your car knows when your keys are near it, so it doesn't have a
my
keyhole.
BMW doesn't even have a key. It's just got this thing.
Right.
My car has butt sensors, so if it's someone else's butt, it won't start.
I think I'm going to go old school. I'm just going to try to figure out if I could drive around a 1969 Mustang and not lose my mind.
Out here you can. But the only problem with those cars, I'm sure you have, but driving those old Mustangs, is there's not a lot of them don't have power steering. So when you turn,
those old Mustangs had power steering. It's just
they're like
it's
63
shitty steering.
Is that what?
Oh no, maybe if you go that far
because I had a buddy of
back.
mine in high school had one of those, man, and like they're fun to drive, but for an everyday car, like you want to go park, you're like shit, you know.
Be good for your
it's
arms,
like turning
though.
a boat. Yeah,
it's a good little workout.
Yeah,
I think. But I think the real issue with those cars is they handle like dog shit. Like you have to figure out someone who could do what they call a pro touring version of those cars. So they take an old car and then they put like a more modern suspension on it so you could actually drive it. But it's still never going to be like the new cars. Like if you hit your brakes, there's anti-lock brakes. Like people forget about like locking your brakes up.
How about like the newest cars now have sensors on them?
Oh,
If somebody cuts in front of you, it automatically brakes.
Yeah, there's a lot of those
pretty
new cars.
sweet, especially if you like to text and drive. You know, you don't even have to fucking look anymore.
I rented a car and it swerves you back if you go over the line. Like if you go over the line on the highway, it goes like this. Whoop. It pulls you back.
I feel like that takes some getting used to, though, right?
Well, you can shut it off if you want to.
Yeah,
but
what if it
weird.
freaks out and just like slams on the brake? You're going like 90 on the freeway, and it slams on the brake, or it jerks over and you hit it.
Better yet, what about that Michael Hastings guy? That guy that committed suicide, who was going after all these generals and exposed all this crazy shit, and was said to all of his family that he was worried that they were going to try to take him out, and then he winds up going down. Was it Sunset? Where was it? Highland? Some major street in L.A. He's going 120 miles an hour and slams into a fucking tree. Car explodes. Engine goes flying. Engine flew away from the car like 30 feet. Oh, it's a crazy story.
Yeah.
The conspiracy theorists love this story like no other. Because if anybody was ever going to get killed, it was this motherfucker. He was going after generals.
But those are the times where conspiracies make more sense to me.
Yeah.
Because those are like closed networks. Like my whole problem with conspiracies is like people aren't good at keeping secrets, man. So like when they're that big, I have a hard time.
You know who's good at it,
I don't think
though?
the government's that organized. But I could see some generals taking out a motherfucker, like that makes sense.
Those industrialists, dude, that run everything, they're pretty good at keeping secrets.
Yeah.
I mean, when you find out about like the Lehman Sachs tapes that just came out, is that Lehman Sachs? Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs tapes that just came out. Have you paid any attention to this?
It's the banker, right?
Yeah. I don't know what the fucking revelations were, but apparently people are freaking out about these new like hours of tapes that just came out that just show how they've paid off the regulatory commissions, like how the whole thing is like the bankers like establish the standards and run the system.
But there's like a weird loophole where politicians meet. This happens with Nancy Pelosi, and everyone kind of just stopped talking about it. But it's like they meet with these stock guys, get all this insider information, and then are still allowed to invest in the companies and fucking make money on it.
It's unbelievable.
I don't know, and how it's not legal, but it's only legal because it's the people who make the laws. I don't know. That those are the issues that really hurt my brain, and especially since we get distracted by something else and then we stop talking about it, and then somehow it just is okay. It's weird.
In Bloomberg, this is the article saying the reporter Jake Bernstein has obtained 46 hours of tape recordings made secretly by a Federal Reserve employee of conversations within the Fed and between the Fed and Goldman Sachs. And they're calling it the Ray Rice video for the financial sector.
Oh my God.
This is scary shit.
They don't need to call it that.
Yeah, right.
It's a stupid name.
They have to.
That's a stupid name for it.
It's the next Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
Financial network.
It's like
it's the Anthony Weiner Pictures of real estate.
well, the best one of that is when someone talks about a word that's offensive and they'll say it's our nigger.
Oh yeah.
Like tranny. They're using that for tranny. They're saying that's our nigger.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with that too. Is there's got to be like an update on what's offensive.
Well, you know what?
Because
what's
stuff
new
changes
now?
sometimes, and then you don't know it, and then you say it, and people are like, "Oh, you can't say that." Like, I didn't know.
Retard's out. You know that,
Well,
right?
That's long.
It's been out for a couple of years.
A couple of years, yeah. I
Yeah.
stopped using retard. I did. I stopped.
What about bitch? You know, bitch is on its way out.
But yeah, bitch is, and so is pussy.
Pussy's on its way out.
Yeah, people don't like because calling somebody weak using effeminate expression.
But when a girl calls a man a pussy, I like it.
Yeah, fuck yeah. No, but I also think it's weird. I think it would be weird if you, in other words, the idea of like a bitch or pussy, but it's like, dude, you don't be such a pussy. But if, yeah, I get, it's like, all right, so that means you're making, by putting a female, making it a gender thing, it makes that women are weaker. But then at the same time, how weird would it sound if you made that the other way? So like pussy was mean you're like a badass, like dude, you don't have a pussy big enough to jump off that fucking ledge. Like it doesn't work that way either. You know what I mean? Like
but
daring your buddy,
your
you're like, dude, how big's your pussy, bro? You can do it. The water's cold. Don't you know?
But you'll tell a girl she's got balls.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I guess I see it. One means brave and one means weak, but at the same time,
we're micromanaging.
It's also just some of it's like, I feel like with some of that stuff, I feel like, I don't know, man, I'm cooked. Like, that's fine if the next generation remember your grandparents? Like, there's certain fucking things where, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to say Asian. Like, I'm too old. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
like,
it's Oriental.
Yeah,
He's an Oriental.
I don't know. Like, it used to, look, we had to change from Chinaman to Oriental already. I don't want to change another time.
Yeah. I was with my friend at a fucking diner once, and this guy said something like to my friend, like, you're kind of people. And so I saw my friend like sitting there going, I go, what kind of people? I asked a question for him. And the guy goes, coloreds.
Right.
And he didn't think there was anything wrong with saying colored because he was like, we were probably like 18 and he was in his 60s.
Yeah, that was his.
Yeah.
Well, that still seems weird. But
it was weird. Yeah. It was real weird.
Yeah.
But he was not being disrespectful.
Right, of course not.
He was
like,
just
thought that was the appropriate. Yeah. But that's the thing that does happen. Like, it is hard for people to keep up with changes in language because you're just used to, I don't know, I grew up saying retard. Was, and the F word, we can,
Well, the problem with retarded is retarded is actually, if you think about the word, it's meaning like to slow growth.
Yeah.
And if you tell someone that's a retarded way of looking at something,
there's
like there's slow growth in the way you look. Like you're going to need to catch the fuck up.
Yeah.
It's a valid way of saying it.
Yes.
But when you call someone a retard.
Right. Because that implies that they have,
Down syndrome.
Down syndrome or, some kind of a... mental handicap.
Do you know that used to be mongoloid, like the term that they used to use, mongoloid idiot, was the term they used to use on your birth certificate if you were born with Down syndrome.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. If there's books, if you read like anthropological books from like the 1800s, the way they refer to different kinds of people, like, it's frightening. It's absolutely.
Thaddeus Russell was on the podcast last week.
He's awesome, by the way. I heard that. He's so
brilliant
good.
guy.
Yeah.
But did you hear what he was talking about the Irish? But the Irish were considered chimpanzees.
They were less. They were less than blacks.
Yeah.
And that their race was. That's the other thing that always is so fascinating to me. You guys were talking about that, but this idea now that like. You get, and he was talking about it, like they became cops and this, so like get assimilated into white culture. But there's a whole white that anyone who traces back to Ellis Island or is I'm an Italian Jew. Like that's not really like people get like I know like I have a lot of like Italian like Long Island family, like who's like fucking Mexicans coming in like that kind of shit, and like it's like that's just. They're just the Italians of now, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, the Italians were just the Mexicans of, like, the early 1900s. Like, nobody liked them. They were pieces of shit. They were, like, laborers, all this shit. So it's, like, it's weird to think that...
Your white privilege.
Yeah, like, it's like, well, you hear Hannity and these guys going, the way America used to be. Like, dude, you're a fucking Irish guy. Like, you're 2 generations away from just being a piece of shit. Like, don't treat those people like a piece of shit.
Well, not only that, you came directly from immigration.
Yeah.
100% directly from savages.
And you're, like, succeeding in this country in the way your great-grandparents dreamed you would.
Not even dreamed, their wildest ways.
Right, in their wildest ways, yeah. And so it's always astonishing to me when it's like, oh, no,
they're anti-immigration.
What's that? Yeah,
And
they're
they're
anti-immigration, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, the whole idea that of like, and look, again, illegal immigration is a different argument, but there is a tendency to like be waiting online at the nightclub, and then you get in and you're like, look, you're gonna let those assholes in. You look back at the line, you're like, dude, you just got in the fucking club. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think if people could fly around, it would be even more ridiculous to not have immigration. Because if people could fly around, if we all had flying cars and you could just go across the border left and right, there would be no one to stop you.
Yeah.
Because you could just go anywhere you want.
Right.
Unless they figured out a way to grid up the sky where they could block you and do a traffic stop in the sky above Mexico. But if they couldn't do that, how the fuck are you ever going to tell people where they can go or not go? They're going to go where the work is. Where's the jobs? The jobs are in America. They would go to America, and then America would overrun, and people would start slowly trickling back into Mexico and reestablishing communities, and it would even out eventually. But if they don't do that, it's almost never going to even out. It's going to, like, people are like, Mexicans need to get their shit together on their own. Part of the reason why their shit is fucked up is because they're connected to the great barbarians of history.
Right.
Like, they are the border. They're next door to the greatest war machine the planet Earth and the human race has ever known.
Yeah.
And so they're feeding it cocaine.
right. But
I
at
mean,
the,
I mean,
but
that's
at
what
the
they're
same
doing.
time, you know, but if you look at like Canada, right? We don't have like the same issue in the north.
No, we
Like,
don't.
There is something to be said about like what the life is like for Mexicans in Mexico. You're talking about $35,000 being the 1%. Like that life in that country in a lot of ways is like, it's not a good life.
Well, isn't that similar in the way you can analyze it, though, to, like, say, Compton? I mean, look at that. Compton is a part of L.A., and so is Beverly Hills. And they're all connected to each other.
Yeah.
They're all right, but one of them is way the fuck over there, and that's considered Compton, and this is this terrible, impoverished community. And then right over here, we have Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And you could get lucky and be born in Beverly Hills to a family that lives in a gated community and takes you to a private school, and everything's fucking smooth sailing. Or you can get this shit end of the stick,
Yeah.
and a single mom in Compton who's on welfare gives birth to you in a crime-ridden household and terrible neighborhood filled with gang violence. Both of those, I mean, the idea of a border protecting you from anything that's happening in Canada or anything that's happening in Mexico, ultimately
Right.
it seems kind of silly.
Yep. No, I see
At
what-
some point in time, it seems crazy that a person has a chance or doesn't have a chance based on which patch of dirt they just got shit out on.
No doubt. And then that, I mean, that's a whole, I mean, but that's, I mean, the bottom line is, though, that's just living in modern society,
Right.
right? Like, we have to have some rules. And my
Right.
thought is, like, we do have poor people. I mean, and that's what we were talking about people needing help. And it's like, it gets complicated in America
Yeah.
because it's like you want to help people, but then you start going, all right, well, we want to help people, but we don't want to have a system where people are like, fuck it, I don't need to work. I'm getting this
Yes.
sweet job, because that's a
Yes.
whole other problem.
That's a huge
And then it's
problem.
also like, well, I work really hard and I'm giving a lot of my money back to the government, and like I don't really have much of a say in how they manage that money, and I don't think they do a very good job of it, which I think anyone would say. But then at the same time, so now you can have that whole argument about people who live here and are born here and what rights they have by being born here, even though all it is like, I was literally born here. But you got to make a rule somewhere.
Well, think about how radical a proposal would be if a presidential candidate or someone got on television and had a detailed, outlined idea of how they want to improve inner cities. And one of them, it starts with re-educating the adults in the community. I mean, people would be like, what the fuck? But if they don't do that, anything else you do, if you add money and if you give people money for nothing, you can call it whatever, reparations, you could call it welfare, depending on what race you're talking about, just giving impoverished people money, white people included, people who are poor, lived in fuck up areas, you give them opportunities, you give them money, you give them education. If you don't do something about the mindset of the adults, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Because they're still going to abuse their kids. They're still going to have terrible ideas of the world. It's a big part of these communities. It's not just the financial strife. It's also that you're stuck with a bunch of fucking dummies.
Yeah, but at the same
Right?
time, it's a culture that has been an abused culture in this country for a long time.
It certainly has, but what about
it's
the
like-
white folks that are poor too?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're in a trailer park in West Virginia, that's just as bad. I mean, you ever see the Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia? Fucking wild ass documentary.
Yeah.
You seen that?
I've seen clips of it. I've never seen the whole
It's
thing.
fucking
Yeah, I'll
awesome.
put it on my
It's
list.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But these people, I mean, you might as well be black and in the South.
Right.
You might as well be, in a poor neighborhood in Compton or Watts.
Yeah.
You're fucked. You got
Yeah.
born into this
Well, that's what I
neighborhood with a
mean.
bunch of criminals.
That's the problem. That's not the problem, but that's the complication with the system. That's like, where people go, "Oh, look, this country, you know, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you work your ass off." But it's like, hold on a minute, like my bootstraps were pretty fucking high, for out of the gate. Like they were already at my knees when I was born, you know. And I wasn't born rich, but I was born like you know, I came from Italian Jews, like working class people, hardworking people, but I was able to go to college. I was able to like do an internship for like at Dave Letterman for a summer. Like you don't get opportunities like that if you need to fucking have a job and shit. Like
you know that expression, born on third and thinking you hit a triple?
Yeah. No. And I'm saying I think that I don't have guilt about it because I think the people that worked before me and I knew my grandfathers very well. Like those guys were like stealing coal off of trucks to keep warm kind of dudes.
Right.
So and they worked their ass off so that like everyone could do better. And now I'm that next generation who's doing, you know, been given a lot because of their hard work. I appreciate it on all levels, but definitely easier for me to like do comedy
no doubt.
as a career.
But if you could do it, okay, like you spent all these years working for the Daily Show, and there's a lot of political thinking, you know, involved in that kind of a job. If you could fix it, what would you do? I mean, if someone said, "All right, President Rory, you have all this money to
President
allocate,
Rory.
Take all that marijuana
I'm the president.
sales."
First thing I do is, I want a lobster sandwich. You know, I just start ordering food.
Cold or warm?
You can get anything you want anytime, right?
I don't think you can. Nothing sexual.
Oh, well, nothing sexual.
Nobody
Which
can keep their mouth shut
I mean, the
anymore.
guy's running the free world.
That's what I'm saying. Once he gets a robot fuck doll, everyone's going to shut their mouth. I don't think the president should be allowed to have the robot fuck doll. He should love Mrs. Obama. She's a wonderful woman. I would be so happy if she was mine.
Oh yeah, man. That I don't know, man. I mean, I wish I don't have.
But isn't
the
that a part of the
capacity
problem?
to
That's a
have an
part of the
answer.
problem is that everybody has this complaint that we need to make the poor rich and or help
I don't think
them
we need
out.
to make the poor rich. I
I'm
just think
not even saying that. I'm just saying everybody has this complaint. There's this disparity in wealth. Everybody has this complaint that the the people that are in the minorities that are in poor neighborhoods, crime ridden, they don't have a chance. And you're right. But what the fuck can be done?
Well, you know, I don't think there's such a thing as a society where nobody's poor, except for like Norway or like those weird Nordic countries where people, I don't know, somehow
that's
are
just
all rich
because
and
there
look the
hasn't
same.
been a society. It doesn't mean it's not possible.
But But I do like George Carlin used to have a thing where he would talk about poverty. He would go like, "This is how the world works." You know, there's rich people who do none of the work, make all the money. Then there's the middle class who do all of the work, make a little bit of the money, and then there's the poor to scare the shit out of the middle class, so they keep showing up to their jobs every day.
That's smart.
You know what I mean? And it's it's like the system needs to function in some capacity. So there's always going to be poor people, and I do think that like I do believe that like in a lot of cases the richer people in this country, some of them were born privileged, but somebody along the way was shrewd. Somebody was smart. And a lot of times it was just screwing people over. I mean, if you look at all the tycoons of like the industrial age and all those guys, like they fucked over a lot of people to get really rich. You know? And also like, so I don't know, a lot of times the people who got here first have all the money, like the real wealth in this country, like the waspy wealth. It's like, that's Plymouth Rock.
Yeah.
That's like Folgers. Like those guys came over on the boat, on the Mayflower, and were like, I'll be the coffee guy. You know, and like it's like that's it. Like no one named Folgers has worked again. You know, so it's like they were just calling shit.
Well, that's the ultimate, spoon in your mouth. That's the ultimate privilege and luck is being a part of some oligarch family.
But did you ever see that Jamie Johnson made that movie called Born Rich a couple years ago for HBO? It's he's the Johnson & Johnson heir.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's good. And
it's called Born Rich. It's a documentary.
And it's like he shot it on video. I mean, but it's very good, and it's all about the weird struggle that these kids have who are not rich, like get a job rich, like you don't ever have to do anything ever again. And I think he got sued actually by the Vanderbilt kid, not Vanderbilt, Carnegie, one of the Carnegie kids who he was friends with growing up, because he was friends with Vanderbilt Carnegie, and this kid's telling a story about how he was with his grandfather one day walking in front of Grand Central Station, and he goes, "This is yours," and he's like, "What is?" And he's like, "This station, Grand Central, you own it." It's like that Carnegie family, like Grand Central, right? And in front of Carnegie Hall, not just Carnegie Hall, but in front of Grand Central Station, there's Vanderbilt is who owns Grand Central Station. In front of it, there's a big statue. Still, there's a big bronze statue of Cornelius Vanderbilt, who is like his great grandfather. Oh my! And he gave New York Grand Central Station. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like rich, like Rockefeller gave New York the Palisade cliffs. He was like, you can have these, but you can't build on them. I like the look of the cliffs. Like that kind of shit. People that, like most of New York was just like gifted by rich dudes. Put my name on it. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So these kids are the heirs of those kids, with those guys. And they're pretty fucked up, you know? And like, and Jamie Johnson's dad, you imagine is like running Johnson & Johnson. You think he's probably going there every day with a suit and tie and be like, we need more Q-tips. They're too hard, you know? Like, no. He's like sitting in his fucking garage painting. He's like, he's never worked a day in his life.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like his...
It must be hard to feel confident.
Well, that's the whole point of the movie. Is like they have no direction in life. They have no sense of purpose. Now, most people go, "Fuck that! I'd find a direction in life with $1 billion." But I don't know. Like there is something about working, feeling like you have a sense of purpose.
Well, there's something about developing your personality. I mean, you have to develop your personality through your character gets developed through adversity and overcoming adversity, lessons learned. If there's no lessons learned, there's no wisdom.
Yeah.
If you haven't experienced anything difficult or pulled anything off, you're not going to have confidence. You're not going to have the confidence you can do. You might have some cocaine-fueled, ridiculous confidence. You can be the fucking king of the world, but it's not. It's not. You know. It's not reality.
Right.
I have a friend who has a friend. I don't know the guy very well. I've had conversations with him, but he was a part of some insanely large family that has billions of dollars. They own like half of they have a stretch of buildings in Malibu on the beach.
Sweet.
Where they started buying up the neighbors' buildings because they didn't want anyone next to them. So they would just like the neighbor was selling their house for $24 million. They just snatched it up.
Jesus
just so they could have the neighbor's house too.
Right.
They just own the houses around. I mean, they have billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah, so they just
he had a
wanted
trust fund, burned through it. Had a backup trust fund, burned through that.
I don't even know how.
He's like in his late 40s. He's just a disaster.
Degenerate disaster.
Disaster.
Yeah.
Just a disaster. And
That's
everyone,
insane.
they would feel, when are you going to get your shit together, sir? It's never going to happen. This fucking guy. And he was having a conversation with my friend, and he said, if whatever you do, because she has kids, he said, whatever you do, do not let your kids have money. Don't give them any money. Make them like he was acutely aware of his own failings because he was born to this billion dollar empire.
Yeah, just had no concept of what it meant.
He's just not a man. Like when you're around him, he's just got no confidence.
Yeah.
He's got nothing. He
Yeah.
didn't do anything.
No grit. There's no grit. Like he's never been a piece of shit to anybody.
And it's not to say that someone who's born in that same scenario couldn't have found like painting or music or become like successful at something they do on their own or decided, I'm not going to touch that money or I'm going to donate that money to charity. I recognize the pitfalls of this scenario, so I want to be something different other than, with this map that's sort of leading me to go into this certain direction.
Well, you could
it is
also,
possible.
you could also, I mean, we were originally talking about how hard it is to be poor. Now we're talking about how hard it is to be rich.
It's much more ridiculous.
I know.
Yeah.
I would also say that, like, if you really fucking wanted to man up, like, then fucking go live for a year with, $50,000 in a bank account and go live somewhere in the country and try to survive. Like, fucking test yourself.
But that's not even real, though, because they know they could always go back. At the end of this
yeah.
Well, as soon as this year's up, I'm killing Vietnamese people.
I'm sure there are rich people who have, found a way to fucking give back or do something in life besides like feel bad about the fact that they can just do whatever the fuck
the fucking
they want.
Virgin guy, Richard Branson, famous for that. But I think he made all of his money himself.
Yeah. Oh,
when you made all your money yourself, it's a little different.
Really
obviously.
funny
a lot
thing.
different.
Yeah, Richard Branson. But Streeter Seidel is a really funny comic and writer, and so he just got a job at SNL. But he did a thing on that show I worked on with Neil Brennan this summer, where he's talking about Richard Branson is his favorite rich guy because he does all the things you said you would do if you were a rich guy when you were a kid. Like, I'm going to hot air balloon around the world. Like he's like, I'm going to build a spaceship. Yeah. Like, okay, like Richard Branson.
Would you ride that fucking spaceship? That's like $100,000.
I would. I would ride it like 10 years in. Once I know like it blew up a couple times and they had to they fixed it.
Dude, the first time it blows up, that's gonna be a tough sell for tickets after that.
Yeah, well then it takes a hit. It blows up, it takes a hit. But yeah, if it doesn't blow up, I would do it. I just wouldn't want to be on like the first mission.
Yeah, that's
although
smart.
The first mission may be the best one, right? That
might be the only one.
The only one, yeah.
Well, what scares me more than that is the people that are willing to sign up to go to Mars. There's more than 100,000 people that are willing to sign up for the one-way trip to Mars.
Yeah, but I'd imagine if you, I would say on that list though, if you started weeding out through those people, there's probably like 10 people you'd want to send.
At least.
You know what I mean?
100,000?
You know how many fucking drunk people are like, I'll do it. I'll go to Mars. Yeah.
I
don't know.
I think they have to like really look over the applicants, make sure that's something. I mean, if a guy's a roofer, he wants to go to Mars, go, hey, bro, there's not going to be any roofs.
Well, we're going to need roofs. We're going to need roofs.
I'm real good at working. I work hard.
That's like it's another really funny thing. This guy I used to work with told me about that movie Armageddon, to bring it up again. But the premise of that movie is it's easier to train oil drillers to be astronauts than it is to train astronauts to drill. You know what I mean?
Funny.
It's like, you know what we could do is why don't we just treat these astronauts with, just teach them how to use a drill. Nah.
Those movies have a special place in my heart too, because that's where like Aerosmith started doing ballads.
Oh, fucking so funny.
And like,
that
you guys were
so funny.
You guys were I'm back in the saddle again. Like, what happened? What is this?
I can't help it.
Back in the saddle again.
Yeah. I know.
What happened?
I know, they couldn't help it.
What's going on with this? Why is this song making me develop estrogen?
I'll be there for that one.
Yeah, all those. There's
Is
a
that
couple
Bryan
of
Adams?
those. There's a few of those that just make you go, how do you guys were the shit.
Yeah, that happens.
Plus, I grew up in Boston, so Aerosmith was everything.
I went to school in Boston. They had
where'd you go?
BU. They had a band that they used to pretend. They used to go to like Mamakin was their place on Lansdowne Street. And they used to show every now and then. You'd hear fucking Aerosmith came by last night. And they'd be on the list as like Lizard Feet or like whatever. They'd make up some band name and then they'd show up and do they'd show up and do like a quick fucking.
That's fucking
Mamakin
awesome.
thing. Yeah, I never had the experience of seeing him, but
I'm friends with Joe Perry. I go
Are you
back
really?
and forth with him. I send text messages to
That's
Joe
cool.
Perry.
That's very
and
cool.
I'm like, this is the craziest
I
shit
once had
ever.
the coolest
I'm about
thing.
to text message Joe Perry.
That's fucking cool. I once went, not as cool as that, but I once was used to the Daily Show was a global edition, so I used to produce this, and I would go to Sony Music was our edit bays, so tons of musicians would be recording albums there, and I mean like Jimmy Page, like Robert Plant was singing there one day, like all sorts of crazy shit, and I would hear it and whatever. So one day I'm there doing this edit for the show, and it's like, in this dark edit room, and I go to take a piss in the Sony bathroom, and I hear like skibba-doo-bop-a-doo-boop-boop, and it's fucking Steven Tyler taking a piss in like green lizard pants, like leopard pants, whatever, like super tight, like flowy shirt, and I guess he was warming up his voice. But it was so, it's like the tile, it's a bathroom. So he's just leaning in the urinal like, and I was like, this is the coolest. And I peed up next to him like, what's up, man?
That's so funny.
Yeah, that was like my big Aerosmith experience. I was like, I heard Steven Tyler warming up his pipes in a urinal. Yeah, really cool.
Wow, that's fucking awesome. It's so weird when you meet a guy. Like I saw Paul McCartney one night at the Improv. I didn't get a chance to meet him, but just seeing him.
Did he see you do stand-up?
Yeah, he was in the audience.
Cool.
It was
I once did.
nerve-wracking.
Our audience warm-up guy once didn't show up to the Daily Show or was late. Awesome comic, great warm-up guy, but was late. So every now and then I would do warm-up. Like if it was an emergency situation, I'd just go out and do warm-up for the crowd. And I did it one night when Springsteen was there in the crowd.
Oh, my God.
And he was sitting off to my right with his son, Evan, who's a great dude I know, and a couple of his Evan's buddies. And he just like put on a hat, sit in the crowd, like loved the show, super cool. All the like legends of Springsteen shit you hear, like, so I do warm up for the crowd, and then afterwards, I saw him. He was talking to John after the show, and I like went in to tell John something. Like I like made something up. I was like, I have to tell John this thing because I like wanted to fucking meet Springsteen.
Right.
And he's like, all right, man. He's like, that was awesome. I'm like, really? And so I always joke around people. I'm like, well, Springsteen and I are mutual fans of each other. I mean, he saw me yell at the lady in the fur coat, and I think he knows what I'm capable of. I mean, that was to me the coolest. I really said it. Like if I died the next day, I told my family, I go, just so you know, if I happen to die soon, I'm cool. Like, don't you know what I mean? Like, it was pretty cool, man. And to hear him laughing over and he said something like, I thought you were going to come after us. We're all wearing like, flannel shirts. I'm like, I was just trying to pretend you weren't there, Mr. Springsteen. You know what I mean? Like, no thanks, Mr. S. Very cool though. Like, when you meet somebody who you like on that level, where you're like, holy shit, like I listen to your music, and it's pretty exciting. The
biggest one for me ever was Gene Simmons came to see one of my shows. Gene Simmons brought his family and his son and his wife.
Cool
and his daughters. That was it was a New Year's show too.
Did they come up? He came up, talked afterwards.
Dude, I was nervous as fuck.
Yeah,
I had to address it. from the crowd. I was a huge Kiss fan when I was a kid.
Right.
I mean, huge. It was everything.
Really?
I didn't even like other bands. I just liked Kiss.
That's crazy.
From when I was like
never a
11
big
years
Kiss
old.
fan.
I didn't like other music. I was such a ridiculous Kiss fan.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so that scared the shit out of me. But Paul McCartney, for some reason, made me even more nervous.
Yeah, I find that like working in entertainment, musicians and athletes are the two groups that I get really nervous around. Like athletes, I'm sure, of course, you work in the UFC, but it's like meeting a professional athlete. Like you see like their physicality.
Oh yeah,
and like especially when they're like currently playing the game,
right?
And you go like, oh, so cool, dude. Like, you playing on Sunday? You know, like,
yeah.
I'm like a little kid, even though I'm like older at this point than professional athletes, which is like one of the harder things about watching sports for me now is when like you're watching like I remember in the Rangers playoffs, like someone will get on the ice and be like, look at this 35-year-old who can still tie his skates. You know, you're like, Jesus Christ. You know, they're like, can you believe old man knee buckles? I'm like, I'm 37, man. What the fuck? How old am I? Like, you know, I'm retired now as an athlete.
Well, that's why it's weird when you see Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins is 49 years old. He's a light heavyweight champion of the world.
Jesus Christ.
How the fuck?
Yeah.
And beating young guys,
I know.
like really good guys.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's incredible.
But you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
There's like that. You're just like in awe because there's something about what they do that is so beyond my comprehension.
Yeah, well, can you imagine you be on the court with Michael Jordan as he's fucking slam dunking?
It's
Could you imagine
great.
see him leaping from the 3-point line, flying through the air? You'd be like, what?
It was
what
an honor to get dunked on by you, Mr. Jordan.
But just to be there. I mean, I don't even mean playing
I know.
against him. I mean standing there while he does it.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's
just
absolutely
to
crazy.
Realize the different level of athleticism. He's that they're superhumans.
Yeah,
like if they gave you a pill and all of a sudden you could do what Michael Jordan with it, you would be like, you got a superhuman body, like you're Spider-Man or something.
It's that's the thing too. Is like when people talk about comedy, like why'd you want to do comedy? I was like, I don't know, it was kind of funny growing up, and like I was like, if I could make a living doing this, that'd be cool. But if I was good at baseball, fuck, dude, I'd sure as hell wish I was. Like
you'd be the funny guy in the locker room.
No, I wouldn't even be the funny guy. Maybe I would just be good at baseball. Like in other words, like that would be cool. Like I would definitely want to do something like that if I was given any physical,
gifts whatsoever. Did you play any sports growing up?
Yeah, I played like soccer and stuff, but I just never cared. I was weird. I was definitely like the wise ass. I got in trouble a lot, like in high school on the soccer team. Like my coach would be like, Albany, shut the fuck up, you know? And I would like get a little bit of playing time if we were winning or something, you know what I mean? But I was good. I don't know. I like never, sports just weren't something I loved to do. You know, I wasn't like into them. I like watching them, I guess, but I was never like.
Did you kind of always know you wanted to be a comic?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to.
At what year would you like?
Oh, I don't know. It was just the kind of thing where, like, I don't know. I remember being a kid and being funny and like just being in school. And John Oliver and I used to talk about this all the time because he and I we're a month apart in age, and he grew up in England. But having these weird parallel life experiences across the pond from each other, where like we would talk about being in school and a teacher saying something that was a perfect setup for a joke, and you knew if you yelled out the punchline it would crush, but you also knew you would get in trouble.
Yes.
And it was like no doubt in your mind, like, I'm going with the punchline.
Fuck
like
yeah.
Fucking no decision to be made. Yeah, go to the principal, like, no matter. That fucking killed.
Do you remember like a great one
from school?
Do you have one where you like
Christ.
said something to a teacher and you're like, oh shit?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I used to do stupid shit like in Spanish class. Like a teacher would call on me to for the definition of a word, and then I would just, like sacar. I had one where she called my mom about this, my Spanish teacher. Sacar. She was like, go around the room and point and say a word, and we have to use it in a sentence. And she pointed at me. She said, Rory, sacar, and I was like, after school, I have soccer practice. And it was like, huge laugh, fucking principal's office, And I was like,
why would you send you to the principal's office?
I was like, it was that kind of shit.
That's
Whatever.
funny,
it was just
man.
like, and then like a call home to my mom, like he's disruptive, and my mom being, but it was, he was funny, but it's disruptive,
I had what could be construed as a racist one from high school.
What was that?
I had this black math teacher who was really aggressive. In her defense, we were terrible students and nobody was paying attention.
Yeah, I was a dick.
But she was like aggressive with the way she would communicate. It wasn't fun. And this is the example. So for whatever reason, she decided to. She goes. She was doing something on the board, explaining some problem, and then I was talking, and she goes, "Mr. Rogan, would you like to come up here and do both of these problems for the class?" And I said, "Would you like me to do both of those problems?"
Oh shit!
and she kicked me out for that.
Well.
And but I go, whoa, that is exactly how you said it.
Right. But you
like,
said
what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Let's explain. What are you doing wrong? You're a math teacher, doesn't speak English right.
Yeah.
And they kicked me out, and everyone was howling. They were fucking howling. That was the only laugh I got in all of high school.
Really?
That wasn't funny at all.
Huh.
But I was easily annoyed.
How'd you end up wanting to do comedy though? Because it's such like a self-loathing kind of an activity.
Yeah, it's a different
And you
path.
are an athlete. You are good at athletics. You know, like what?
Well, my fear came from a different place. I mean, everybody has like a certain fear, you know, that like leads you into comedy. There's always a bunch of factors. Like there's the being ignored as a child. That's always a key factor. And then the fear. And for some comics, it's like the insecurity is what leads you to like, it propels you to get past the fear of going on and doing public speaking and the whole idea behind it. But my fear was like actual physical violence that I was involved in fighting from the time I was 15 to 21. So I was scared all the time.
Really?
I was always terrified. Like before I retired from competing, my life was a series of getting ramped up for competitions, getting through them, relaxing for like a day or a couple hours, and then being terrified of the next one. It's
crazy.
So like all that fear led me to like have like a gallows humor. Like I was the guy that would be on a bus going to a tournament and I would be cracking everybody up.
Right.
But I was just because I was terrified.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. But I never was funny in high school. Like when I just had to say this because this chick was a cunt.
Yeah,
you know.
no,
And this is the best part about it. Like as I was leaving,
By the
she
way,
goes,
good call not saying that.
She goes, "Go ahead and laugh because Mr. Rogan is going nowhere in life."
That's funny.
So what? You can't say that. You're teaching a class.
Yeah.
You can't say you're going nowhere in life.
Yeah.
You're a shitty role model.
Yeah.
You're a shitty person to be instructing a class. If you speak badly and I mock your speaking badly and you kick me out of the class, that's just saying that I got you.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I found like I remember getting in trouble for stuff like that. Like I had one where I used to wear a hat to school every day. Like that was like a big thing when I was in
Baseball hat?
Yeah, like a baseball cap.
Not
That
like a
was
fedora like you thought you were Sinatra.
God, no.
Unlit
By the
cigarette.
way, wish I had the balls to wear the fedora. I had to
That's
wear
the
what
nectar
everyone else
of
was
the
wearing.
gods, baby.
Yeah, but remember like starter game hats? Like that was like a big thing, and like, you know, you'd like curl the shit out. I still do
yeah.
with my hats. Like I curl them around so much. Now, yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
But now everybody wears them flat. You know, I'm not that
I'm
cool.
not into flat.
I can't do flat.
It
I don't-
seems silly.
Yeah, but so one day, a friend of mine, this black girl at school, had like a hair weave. You know, like she had hair weaved in, and she was playing with it, and like I was talking or whatever, and I pulled one out. I was just like fuck around with her or whatever, and I had it. So she was laughing, so I put it under my hat and put my hat on. So I had like payas, like a Hasidic Jew,
right?
And then I just walked around school. You know, people thought it was funny. Like I was the idiot wearing payas out of my hat that was from like this girl's hair weave, and she thought it was funny. We all thought it was funny, but then the fucking librarian at my school saw me and fucking annihilated me. Was like, that is like, because she thought I was being like racist, culturally, anti-Semitic. Like she went on a list, and I was like, I'm a Jew, and like the girl, she gave it to me. Like I was like, there's
Not
no
only that,
I was just trying to be funny, but like those kind of things, I would get in trouble for.
But see, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't get in trouble for that at all.
Yeah,
That's an
but-
asshole teacher.
Yeah, but that was
someone
the
who wants to
librarian.
but she wants to snuff all the fucking humor out of the world.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, I was just getting some laughs between class. You know, I was like, no, I was like that was again like I used
What
to get.
were we talking about earlier about the oversensitivity of the world?
Yep.
And that it's a huge issue in universities now. It's a gigantic issue. This
It is.
unrealistic oversensitivity that's not based on intent. It's based on demonizing words or ideas.
But there's also what's weird about it. I think about this all the time. It's like the left wants everyone to be the same. Like that's the goal, right? Like no, it doesn't matter that he's black or that he's this. Like it's like we're all just people. We're all just this. But it's like that's what when you start to like homogenize things that way. That's what's starting to happen. Like with corporations, they're doing the same thing. Where it's like you go to a town, there's no restaurants, there's Applebee's, and there's like it's like we're making everything the same. And like there is a weird part of that where like one thing that's nice about different cultures and hanging out with different people is like that's why I love being a stand-up. Like if I hang out with like Latino comics, like then like they're ripping on me for being like a white Jewish guy, and I'm like ripping on them for being Latino. Like I don't know, but it's never racist. It's just like
it's not racist to have fucking hair. If you decide to put, how can she can have a hair weave, but you can't have a hair weave?
Well,
what if you decided to wear your hair long?
And she said it was because I made payas out of it. Like I made
So
it
what?
like I was making fun of Jews, and I was like, no, I am a Jew. She's like, you're not that kind of Jew. I was like,
What the fuck? She's telling you what kind of Jew you can make fun of?
Look, when you're 17, you're just like, all right, whatever. Like,
That's like if I started wearing like a tank top with like spaghetti stains on it.
Yeah.
They'd be like, you're not that kind of Italian.
Yeah, now I am. Yeah. You could pull off a spaghetti stained tank top
What
easy.
the fuck, man? You
Yeah.
can't wear hair weaves.
I mean, look, dude, this is 20 years ago, so, you know, I don't know. It was,
But
you know,
it's
look, I'll tell you right now, if it was now, it would be like on Fox News, you know?
Right. Probably. Yeah,
it would
you'd
be like
on
a
every
national,
website.
be a national. But dude, you went to school, like, when it was, fuck, man, people used to get, like.
I'm older than you, though, and when I went to school, it was less of an issue.
But did you ever, like, you grew up at a time where, like, a coach would, like, slap you on the ass if you did a good job, like that kind of shit? You can't do that.
Can't do that.
You can't
no.
do any of that
You
kind of
can't
stuff.
fuck the kids.
No,
You
that's,
can't do
that
anything.
is the shame. I used to blow so many teachers when I
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
But you know what I
can't
mean,
do.
though? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, there is a weird, you never thought about it. It was never, like,
Don't you think, though, that's like evidence of evolution?
Yeah, I do. In some ways, I think that we get hung up. I think people get hung up on the. As much as I think it's evidence of evolution, I think there's a lot of people, like you just said, you had someone on the show who believes Adam and Eve's a real story. Like,
Yeah.
that's a problem, you know, and that's a big problem when we're talking about how do you solve these issues.
He's a nice guy, other than that.
Sure he is, but
Great,
I'm saying,
and not even a dumb guy, which is really weird.
But when you talk about solving issues, I think we in this country, particularly, we run into, oh man, how do we fix this? And then you get the left going, well, we're going to give them all money. And you're like, oh,
Right.
slow down. Let's not, let's not get carried away with give them all the money. Like, let's just figure out what, you know.
That sounded very Attell.
Yeah, exactly.
Slow down,
yeah,
partner.
exactly. Yeah. Hey there, pump the brakes. Here.
Oh, pull in the money truck, put into town.
Yeah, but then the other side, or the real extreme other side, the really religious side, is like, not just, you know, kneel and whisper into your hands. Like, that'll solve it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're like, oh, wait, that's not an idea. That's just a make-believe thing.
Did you hear about the plane situation where they were going to El Al going to Israel?
Fuck, and they wouldn't sit next to women?
Yeah, these
Jesus Christ.
severe, super Orthodox Jews.
It's-
You can pull
this-
up this story, Brian. It's fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
They made them. They got on the plane,
And then they stood in the aisle the whole flight.
They wouldn't sit down. They got on the plane and they told them that they had to because of their religious beliefs. They had to be together. That people didn't want to switch seats, so they couldn't
can't
sit
Rosh
next to any
Hashanah, they
women.
can't be next to a woman.
Yeah.
It's also, I mean, talk about like the reality of religion, Judaism, Christianity,
They're all
Islam.
kooks.
They're all, I mean, like, they're all really abusive to women, man.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff's pretty crazy.
Well, Islam and Judaism they're ancient, man.
They had
you
not
know?
only ancient, but they're so. And I don't know enough about this. This is like something I'm talking about wanting to write a bit that I got to work on and find all the. But there's a lot of stuff about them that are similar. Like, they don't eat pork. One's called kosher. One's called halal. But like they both speak this like ancient guttural desert language with these weird alphabets. A lot of beards, cover up your women. And you start going like, is there a chance that you guys are all, you know, maybe, you know, the Quran, I think there's 5 books and 5 books. There's a lot, and it's like, is there a chance that maybe like one guy heard it wrong, or you know what I mean? Like, you're both telling the same story here, and like there's like, you know, maybe you don't hate each other as much as you think you do. Like,
Well, the crazy thing is they look alike.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
They look very similar.
but there is a component to that where you start to just go like, and look, we got to give everybody the proper respect. But I have a very difficult time accepting the fact that I fucking spend money to fly to Israel on a plane, and there's a fucking dude standing next to me praying the entire flight. Like, not
11 hours.
Not okay with that. This is not your fucking house, dude. This is a public space. Like, fuck off. Like, what do you mean? Like, that's just not okay.
Well,
and Allah was like,
the flights. They paid for the flights. They bought their tickets in advance. They knew they weren't going to be sitting next to only men.
but it's like, there's another photo that'll link on that article you're about to read that I saw the other day. There's a guy wrapped in plastic, a Jewish guy wrapped in a big thing of plastic, like a dry cleaning bag, because he can't. There it is. See him?
Because he can't be with women.
fly. No, because he can't fly over a cemetery because he's a Kohen, which is the ancient Jewish tribe of like elders and leaders. That's like the name Cohen. People are named Cohen. That's like Jews. That's Kohen. That's like you're from the ancient Jewish king, and you're so special. You're double chosen. So he couldn't fly over a fucking cemetery. So he wrapped himself in plastic because some fucking rabbi was like, "No, just wrap yourself in plastic." Really? That's okay? That's the loophole? Well, how about the loophole is like, hold your breath, you know?
How did they have a fucking law about flying over cemeteries?
Well, you
back
can't
in
you can't go near a cemetery. So theoretically, I guess if you
30,000 feet is not far
I don't
enough
know.
away.
Listen, hey, look, and you would think you're so close to God in the clouds that you could just
my
say to him,
God.
"Hey, dude, is this cool?" You know?
But how is a plastic bag going to protect you, but your clothes won't?
And then, well, look, a plastic. Yeah,
That's
that
so
was my favorite
crazy.
part about it. Was the rabbi's like that's my favorite thing about religion. I talk about my stand-up sometimes, like with Judaism, like some of the ideas that were good ideas, like Judaism, like they're trying to think of like what is this religion? Like what are we really trying to do? And one guy like what should be our thing? And one guy's like, how about we cut baby penis tips off? And they're like, that's a fucking great idea. You know? That's a home run idea in this fucking religion. It's bad. Like it's same thing with that. Just wrap yourself in plastic. Like who's making that shit up?
Well, at least there's only one guy wrapping himself in plastic. I bet everybody on that plane had their dick cut. It's probably 90% of them had their dick
that's
cut.
on the Jews, man. That's on the Jews.
Everybody now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's preposterous that they try to sell that as some sort of a medically necessary procedure.
It actually takes away all the sensitivity of your penis. Is what
Brian
it does.
wants that. He prefers that.
It's too sensitive now. I don't need.
You want the foreskin back?
I would take some more off if I can.
Oh,
You know what you should do? You should just wear really rough underwear.
You're saying you're too sensitive.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. I see your problem.
You should wear really rough underwear. Like get some hemp underwear.
That's funny. Burlap,
some canvas sacks.
tidy burlaps. Get some tidy burlaps.
Yeah, just make them out of a potato bag, nice and rough. Just really chafes up
That's really funny.
like a fucking carpenter's hands.
Yeah, make a banana hammock out of like some fucking burlap sacks. That'll fucking kill you right up.
I mean, if you look at condoms, a lot of the condoms have lotion on it to help with the sensitivity, so you last longer. It numbs. It
But
pretty
is
much
that
numbs
really
your
what
dick.
they're trying to do, though?
Yeah.
I mean, don't they try to make it feel better? That's exactly the opposite of what they do. They claim extra sensitivity. Condoms, that's the #1 selling point, is that they're more sensitive. That's why they have lambskin ones. Like,
Not
what you're
all
saying
of
is,
them,
not, Brian, I've never seen a condom that is designed to numb your dick up. Is that real?
Yeah.
They got dick
But that's
numbing
not
condoms now?
That's not the norm. The norm is the opposite.
Yeah, they have all different kinds. Like Trojans has a 4-pack that has 4 different kinds. That one that has ultra sensitive, one that has numbing, one that has.
I've never
numbing.
seen the numbing. Pull up
but
the
isn't-
numbing.
Yeah,
I've
just
never
the
seen
condom
that.
itself kind of takes away all the.
Yeah.
You don't need the numbing.
Well, the whole
I could see
the complaint that people have is that it's not sensitive enough. That's the #1 complaint
Yeah.
about condoms. It's
Yeah.
not that you want to numb your dick up
Yeah.
inside the condom.
Totally.
I've never even heard of that.
I think that's why I don't use them, man. They just make me so mad.
They make you numb, comfortably numb. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but I would be really shocked, and I think that's not the norm. The norm is the opposite.
I'm sure it exists, just in the market of
Yeah, most people
premature ejaculation.
Yeah, most people would want more sensitivity, though.
Especially with a condom for sure.
It's just a weird.
One is a more common one is Durex Performance condoms, which has a chemical inside it that's 5% benzocaine inside the condom too. So it doesn't decrease your partner's enjoyment, but it helps with the
numbs your dick.
Climax control.
Is that really what it does? It numbs the tip of your dick?
Benzocaine is
much.
that's like a cousin of lidocaine, isn't it? Which is a cousin of cocaine.
Shit.
It is.
But yeah, a lot of them have that kind of stuff.
A lot of them, really?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that that's common. I mean, even if it's 1 or 2 that have it, I would imagine the vast majority are doing the sensitivity, like trying to make it more sensitive.
I actually read recently that magnums aren't really bigger, but they're like marketed that way to make guys feel good about having to wear them.
Yeah, they are bigger.
That's hilarious.
But I don't know. I've read that they're not really as big as you think, So the guys will be like, yeah, dude, I wear magnums.
Isn't there an ultra magnum?
Yes.
Yeah, that's for guys who actually have big
Giant
dicks.
hogs.
Yeah, huge hogs.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah. I can't even buy. They won't even let me buy. I can't even look
They
at
go,
them at
come
the
on,
store.
dude. What are you doing? You playing games?
What are you kidding?
You know the old
Come on,
joke.
don't waste your money.
There was one joke that everybody had. God damn it. It was one of those premises that everybody touched on about buying magnums and box rubber bands, please.
Oh, that's
It's
funny.
like
Yeah,
that they would
yeah.
stick their dick and then rubber band on the
Right,
bottom
have
of
to
it.
tighten it up. Yeah.
Cock ring it down at the
Yeah.
base. Yeah.
Another one's Trojan Extended Pleasure, which makes you numb. One guy in the reviews on Amazon says, made me so numb I couldn't feel a thing. Had to remove it and rinse off just to get feeling back to my penis.
Wow. Great review.
Well, how about that one poor dude that comes like 100 times a day? Have you seen that guy?
Yeah.
He had a bulging disc. He had a bulging disc in his back, and something happened, and he has literally has 100 orgasms
This sounds a lot like
day.
an urban legend to me.
It does.
You know
right?
what? He lives up the street, I swear. He's friends with my cousin. He's friends with my cousin.
Yeah, there was
He,
a woman
comes
that
at-
had it
He
too.
comes at funerals and shit.
Really?
Yeah, he broke down in tears when he was talking about it.
Jesus Christ.
It's such a
and
bizarre.
then he broke down in tears, and then the tear hit his cheeks, and he came.
He came
Oh,
immediately.
Tears make me come.
Man who has 100 orgasms a day breaks down in tears on This Morning. I guess that's a TV show.
Jesus
as he
Christ.
reveals that it's ruining his life.
So how did it happen?
He had some sort of a weird injury, and
Look, this is a woman that has nonstop orgasms.
too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at her. Oh.
she looks.
She
looks like a dude.
It's a dude. Where's the gal? She probably doesn't want everybody to see her face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an odd.
Maybe it wouldn't be funny if this guy was trolling. He's from Wisconsin. And see, he developed this persistent genital arousal syndrome. That's what they call it. In September of 2012, after slipping a disc in his back while getting out of a chair.
Jesus Christ.
Speaking on ITV's This Morning, the father of two explains, "It's completely changed everything I've ever done. I can't do anything. I can't get a job." You have to understand that in America, 90% of jobs are service industry, and nobody would ever put me in front of their customers. So working is pretty much out of the question. So he's just coming all the time?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you come that much in a day? I don't even understand.
Well, this guy's a weird-looking dude, man. He's got his fingers are all tattooed up. He's got, like, across his finger, his knuckles are tattooed.
Yeah, I guess it's tough to get a job. You know,
I always think when a guy does that, like, he's probably a little on the edge.
I'm proficient in Microsoft Excel. Oh, shit, dude. You know what? We're going to keep looking. Thank you.
See, the problem is...
just come in my office, man.
I don't know if this is true, because a producer could come up to this guy and ask him a question, and he could get on the television show. And how much vetting do they do? I mean, do they follow him around?
That's what I mean. I mean,
napkin?
You can't come 100 times in a day.
Doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. He sounds like he just wants a reality show.
It could be, right?
Yeah.
Despite suffering from a near constant erection, Mr. and Mrs. Decker rarely have sex. Occasionally we will, but it's very frustrating for both of us. I've tried reading about it, tried going to doctors, but no one can help me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I just want to get my old life back. I just want to get back.
But what is the medical explanation of how a slip disc can cause that?
That's a very good question. I don't think it exists.
Yeah, seems odd.
You
to
know,
me.
I don't know. It's except according to medical literature. Here's what it's saying: trauma to the pelvic nerves can trigger hypersensitivity in this area. This painful pelvic condition has left him housebound, and isolated. Through fear of suffering a public orgasm. Wow. With even some even causing him to drop to the floor. Imagine you're coming so hard you drop to the floor.
Can I?
This is so ridiculous.
What do you mean? Isn't that? It's just called coming, right, guys?
Mm-hmm. He says there are different there's different intensities. He says the ones that cause me to drop to the floor feel like all the muscles from my chest to my thighs have gone rock hard, and everything just seizes up. It hurts and it feels good at the same time. And you have all these things running through your head as they happen. You don't want to be around anyone, and you don't want anyone to see it.
Jesus.
He explains.
He must nap a ton.
Guy's just coming all the time.
Joe, do you ever have real blue ball where it actually hurt?
No, but I had a dog once that I brought to the hospital because I thought he was really injured. I thought something was wrong
And
with
he
him.
had blue balls?
Yeah.
How do they cure that?
You
They
remember
just jerk
Frank?
him off?
You remember Frank? He was going down the stairs, and as he was going down the stairs, he was walking down the stairs. He was yiping, and I was like, "You okay, buddy? Come on, what's the matter?" And I thought like he had broke his hip or something, and he was like in agony. So I carried him. I picked him up. I put him in the car, and I drove him to the vet. And the vet checked him, and he was wagging his tail at the vet's office and walking around. He seemed kind of normal, and I was like, I don't know what happened. He was going down hills, and he was in agony. He was yiping, and the vet checks his balls. He goes, "Look at this." So he had balls.
That was going to say, so he had balls.
He had his balls, but then in front of his balls, his dick had extra balls. He had these swollen glands on his dick.
Jesus Christ.
It was the weirdest shit ever. It was like he had an extra set of balls on his dick. So I go, "What's going on?" He goes, "You got there's a bitch in heat in your neighborhood." That's an actual technical term, ladies and gentlemen. It's called a bitch in heat. And he goes, and he's freaking out. I go, "That's incredible. Like, he's so horny that he's in pain."
That's crazy.
He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It makes sense if he's going downstairs. You're just the juggling of your balls going down the stairs." And he's a pit bull.
Yeah.
So he could take all kinds of pain. So I can't imagine the ball pain this poor guy was in.
That's brutal.
You just said lines from a Two Live Crew
What'd
song,
I say?
"A bitch in heat, a freak without warning."
Cause me so horny.
I actually had it once, and it was the first time I ever made out with that porn star. The first porn star I ever dated, and it hurt me for like hours. And,
Wow.
And
You know,
like,
there's a
pain.
simple cure.
Yeah, you'll beat off in the
masturbate.
bathroom.
Yeah.
She won't give you none.
You
Jerk off in her sink.
You didn't know that was the cure? I mean, it's well
Yeah.
documented.
Just shut the door, lock it.
Just fucking jerk off.
Just jerk off.
Go
Good.
on.
I meant literally from driving home from her house, my first time meeting her. I remember pulling over, going, "Oh,
Jesus
like
Christ.
pain."
Wow.
I've never had that happen.
That's crazy.
That's a hot bitch. That's what happens. See, now I use bitch in the wrong way. Yeah, got to be careful.
Well, you're doing it specifically to teach a lesson to the kids listening.
Yeah, for the kids.
Proper way.
For the kids.
Yeah.
Think about dogs. Think about what they go through. Don't let it happen to you. You can handle things. They can't do anything about it.
Remember, kids, if your dog is ever whimpering, first thing you should try to do is jerk it off.
I had a friend who used to jerk his dog off.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
How
he
is that even a thing?
He used to jerk his Rottweiler off with
Why?
his foot.
Why?
He would say that the dog was in agony, and he would help him out. So he'd put his foot on the dog's dick and just rub it back and forth.
You're not
and the
like
dog would squirt all over his stomach.
a Bob Barker fan of like getting your dog neutered. You're not into that?
Well, my dogs are neutered now. I have 2 male dogs. They're both neutered, but I don't think it's necessary all the time. I think that people are concerned about prostate cancer and certain things, but my doctor, Dr. Craig, who's a veterinarian, he didn't believe in it. He said, you don't need to. He goes, if it's irresponsible to let your dog breed with other dogs. He goes, but the testosterone that like when a person has their testicles removed, men no longer produce testosterone. They can get really depressed. And he's like, your dog will have less energy. He's like, it just is what's going to happen. They will lose muscle. Their body slims down. And they'll probably have less energy.
Wow.
And he's like, it's not popular to say. He goes, but it's a physiological reality.
Yeah. It's definitely getting your balls cut off. It's not cool.
There was a woman that there's some really controversial experiments that were done with dolphins in the 1960s and the 70s. This guy John Lilly. John Lilly is this famous psychedelic pioneer. He's one of the guys that he invented the isolation tank, actually, and he was this guy who was. He was working on interspecies communications with dolphins, and he set up all these experiments. And one of the experiments he set up, this woman lived with a dolphin. And by lived with it, I mean the dolphin was in a tank of water. The water was up to her waist. And she lived with this dolphin. She would walk around with the dolphin, and like she would sleep there. She would climb up on a bed, and she would sleep on a bed. But like when she was working, when she was at her doing her,
she was in the water.
She was in the water constantly with this dolphin, and the dolphin would get really horny. So she would jerk off the dolphin, and that was a big part of the controversy behind these experiments. Because in her mind, she was like, "Look, he was young, he's male, and he was really distracted, and he couldn't concentrate on the work." And the work was they were trying to teach the dolphin to try to speak English. And they were trying to teach it how to say human-type noises. There's a
that's crazy.
There's a Radiolab podcast about it. I'm trying to figure out what the name of it was.
Dolphin masturbation?
About this very case. This very case. It's incredibly fascinating. And I had always known about Lily because I think it's called Hello. Yeah, it's called Hello. It's it all is about the issues with interspecies communication. Like
crazy.
Dolphins, they kind of understand the concept, but they can't make the noise because they have a blowhole. But this lady was trying. She was living with this thing for a long time, and she was jerking the dolphin off. And then between that and Lily was doing acid and trying. They cut off funding.
I mean, it's like I respect the effort, but at the same time,
well,
the minute you're jerking off the dolphin,
how else does she do that? Right?
Yeah, maybe you get another dolphin. Maybe you just don't have to live with the dolphin. Do you? I mean, there's got to be a better way.
I think. They were concerned.
I mean, I can't imagine that dolphin was fucking happy. I can't imagine he was like, "This is great. I'm living with a lady." Like,
I don't know if he thought it was bad. I mean, we have this big hang up about sexuality, but imagine if you had an itch on your back and you couldn't reach it, and you were being taken care of by someone, and they scratched your back for you. Like, oh, thank you.
No, I just mean I would always lean towards like fucking put the dolphin. Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a don't jerk an animal off kind of a guy. But I just mean my point is, well, then maybe get a better facility to keep the dolphin in. Get a couple of dolphins, let them live, put them in I don't know. I mean, anytime you have an animal in captivity, it's pretty fucked up. But I don't know that jerking them off is the right way to do it.
If you had to choose one, which one would you do?
Which what?
If you had to choose an animal to jerk off, which is
I'll tell a lot of people ask me this question.
I would not do it with a monkey because if you do it wrong, they bite you.
Yeah, I think doing it with a monkey would be a little bit too much like just doing it with a dude.
If you're really rough and you're jerking off a monkey and they just fucking sunk their teeth in your thumb, they don't like how you're working their balls.
No, I'd go exotic. I'd go like giraffe. Like I'd go because it's tall, you could stand. But
they might come and kick you in the head. And
they might. Look, there's always a risk. There's always a risk when you're an animal masturbator.
Rory, he was the executive producer of The Daily Show.
No one said it was an easy job, Joe.
Comedian. He died jerking off a donkey.
I think it's a terrible way to go.
I'd do koala bear because they're so cute.
Oh,
I could get into it.
Do you know they rape a lot?
Yeah.
Really? Koala bears are famous for raping each other.
Well, there you go.
They're vicious. When they fuck, they bite and
really?
Fucking Ooh, get crazy.
Yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah, you don't want to jerk off a koala bear. That's what I'm saying. They'll bite you. They'll bite the shit out of you.
I'm gonna need to sleep on this. I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, let's put this to a test. I mean, what she did was ridiculous, but only ridiculous by our cultural standards. If you think about it, like biologically, the real issue biologically is you're right. Like, you shouldn't have a dolphin in captivity like that.
That's all.
But in the podcast, they sort of document why they did it, because it's really hard to communicate with dolphins in the wild.
Yeah.
I did this thing in Hawaii recently where we went swimming with the dolphins.
Yeah,
I had my 4-year-old with me too, and she was in the water like right next to me. I was holding on to her while we were swimming, and she's got the scuba mask on and shit, and she's snorkeling, looking down while the dolphins swim underneath it. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing, and they're wild. These are not like SeaWorld dolphins.
SeaWorld dolphins.
And they'll sonar you like.
It's fucking cool.
And like they'll get near you and they'll make like weird noises and shit.
I like that the
Very
lady
strange.
every time it talked. According to my calculations, he's saying jerk me off. I'm just listening to him. Well, I mean, we don't know that for sure. Trust me, I speak dolphin. He wants to be jerked off.
It was apparently humping her leg. It was humping her leg.
That's weird.
It was like. So just reach down there, give him a handy, and then back to work, back to school.
Yeah.
The dolphin was never going to be able to speak human. I think it'd probably be easier for a person to learn how to speak dolphin.
For sure.
We can vary. They have a blowhole, man.
Yeah.
They're not making much sound out of that fucking thing.
I also think at some point, there's no real need to speak dolphin.
That's a very good point.
You know what I mean? I mean, in other words, we know they can communicate with each other, and like that's fine.
We could use them as weapons, though.
Well, obviously,
they already have. They've already. The Navy's done that.
They did. The Navy did something with dolphins.
Put dump bombs on them and taught them how to go near fucking ships.
Yeah, or to like blow up mines or something. They didn't use them for anything good.
How crazy is that, man?
Yeah.
They're really smart too.
They're really smart.
There's a dark thing that we do when we keep dolphins in captivity.
If we were mermen, that would be man's best friend. You know what I mean? Like if we lived in the ocean, that'd be dog. We'd all have dolphins.
Imagine if they looked like people but with tails, but they were all the same color as a dolphin, and they did breathe air, so they came out for air. But we didn't understand them because they spoke like dolphins. Would we be comfortable if they lived the exact same life? Would we be comfortable with them in captivity then?
No, of course not. No.
But imagine if they looked like fucking Triton with blue skin and a fucking beard, and they had arms and shit and a human face, but they would talk like.
Fuck the shit out.
And they lived, but they didn't have. I don't think it's probably might be a way to work around it, but I don't think it'd be that easy.
I'm literally getting a call from the Sci-Fi Network. They want to do it. They said yes.
I mean, what if it looked a little bit more
human.
like a person?
Yeah,
like it had a mouth and a nose.
We have
ears.
apes in captivity with
true.
no issue.
Very good
fucking
point.
apes. Doing
Don't
all
you
sorts
think
of horrible
that's
shit.
because we
trying
had
out
them
lipstick
for the longest time?
Yes.
They used to
I
have a
think
black guy in the Bronx Zoo?
What's that?
They had a black guy in the zoo, in the Bronx Zoo. Yes, they had an African for a short period of time in the Bronx Zoo.
When was that?
I think it was like the early 1900s.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. African man.
When you learn things like this, it makes you...
Please do not feed the African.
Yeah, it was crazy shit, man.
Jesus Christ.
His name was Ota Benga. He was a pygmy.
Wow.
And he was, this is really crazy. He was known for being featured in an anthropology exhibit in the anthropology exhibit in the Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis, Missouri in 1904, and in a controversial human zoo exhibit in 1906 in the Bronx Zoo. Wow. He had been freed from an African slave trader by the explorer Samuel Phillips Varner, a businessman.
You're free! Now get into this zoo cage!
Yeah, he traveled with this guy to the United States.
Christ, 1906 too. That's just not that long ago.
Yeah, at the Bronx Zoo, he was exhibited in the zoo's monkey house.
Wow.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, to be fair.
Whoa. Holy shit,
dude!
That's they would file their teeth down. That's like a part of their culture in a lot of those.
That is scary.
That is.
It's crazy.
I had no idea.
Well, that's not that long ago, man. It's 108 years.
108 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts.
That's scary.
People are weird.
Yeah. That's going to be like another 100 years. People are like, you remember that lady who jerked off the dolphin? Can you believe they let that happen?
It's just weird when you see these sort of things that happened not that long ago, and we looked at it as, is that Baby in a Zoo?
Yeah, African Girl in Human Zoo.
Oh, my God. What year is that?
I'll find out.
That is...
It's fucking creepy as shit.
It says throughout the late 19th century and well into the 1950s, Africans, in some cases, Native Americans, were kept as exhibits in zoos. So up to late as 1950.
That's
What?
insane.
Well, you know, like we were talking about earlier about the evidence of evolution, or we should probably say progress. They hate it when we say evolution. You talk about human progress, like thinking. It's not really evolution. Evolutionary is a biological term.
Right.
But human progress, like there's pretty clear evidence that something's going on. And in this abandonment of retard and these words that we don't want to let go, ultimately it seems to kind of be moving in a better direction.
Yeah, I would say that like anytime you're resistant to that stuff, it's a natural
ego.
impulse to like fuck that, I'm not changing. But then the reality is you're always kind of on the wrong side of history.
Right.
If you don't at some point go, I actually understand that there's a group of people who associate themselves with this term and it makes them feel like shit if I say it. And you know, there's going to be ones that I give in on and ones I probably don't. And as I, you know, become more mature, I try my best.
Yeah.
You know, like I get it. If you have a kid with Down syndrome, you don't want to hear me call something retarded. I totally get it. You know? And
totally.
like, you know, like the word fag is a word that I used to say. Like I didn't think it meant anything, but I would call it the F word now. I really do. In fact, I just said it now and I realized
You did say it.
it's been a long time.
It's over.
God, it felt so good.
I dropped an N-bomb earlier, so we're
Yeah, you
even.
did. You did. Yeah.
Dude, thank you very much, man. This is a fun podcast.
Yeah, I had a blast with you guys.
Fuck
Thank you so much, man.
Dude,
I really
you're-
appreciate it. Big
you're a
fan
funny
of this.
dude,
This
man.
was extremely fun for me and cool for me to do. So
Oh, it was
thanks.
fun for us too,
Yeah.
man. You're fucking hilarious.
Thanks.
Anytime you want to come back on,
I appreciate
man,
it.
we'd
Yeah,
love
no, I've been doing.
And
I've
where
got
can
like
people
one,
see you?
Oh, all right. Well, I've got. I'm going to be at the Stress Factory.
Awesome club.
Yeah, I love that club in October 17th and 18th. And
That's in New Jersey.
Yeah, in New Brunswick. And then I'm going to be working on this new show for Comedy Central for a little while, doing just gigs around Manhattan. But my last kind of like headlining gig is at the Stress Factory for a little while.
And this show is the Neil Brennan show?
No, it's the one
It's a
with
different
Larry
one?
Wilmore. It's the one taking over for Colbert.
Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
It's called
What's
the
it called?
Minority Report.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And when does
actually
that
gotta
start?
go there right now. It starts January 19th.
That's when it's on TV?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's going to be
beautiful.
a totally cool, different show.
Well,
so.
let us know. We'd be happy to tweet that and promote that.
You're
And
you guys are the best. Thank you.
The Twitter is Rory Albanese. ALBANESE.
Yeah.
ROY.
And come out to the Stress Factory, man. It'll be fun. Yeah. Thank you guys again.
Rory, not
Rory. Rory Albanese.
RORY. Albanese. I
Yeah.
like I use the dollar sign in your name
Yeah,
too, brother.
well, you know, that's how you...
Come see me at the Stress Factory. Hilarious stand-up comedian. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Big kiss. Mwah, 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 mwah.
It's a fun hang. So you like pizza, you know, and you're like, you know, it's like, it's just, you just talk.